Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for war, man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I'm morally conflicted about all the enthusiasm in America about the sport that is beginning today and is going to engulf Caitlin Clark and take away baseball. And I know everybody's excited. I know America's excited.
Tennis?
Well, just, you know, it's violent real estate acquisition, and the sport is kind of corrupt at its core.
Jesus.
Well, I mean, Colin Kaepernick. Like, I mean,
how about football?
Kaepernick? Corrupt at its core.
I mean, it is.
Every sport is corrupt at its core.
That's
Come
a
on.
good point,
Everything
so
is corrupt at its core.
Yeah.
Violent real estate.
Well, that's a George Carlin line. That's then I borrowed that.
It is a game of real estate.
That part is true, though.
acquisition.
Yeah,
but
that
it's
part
and
is
it's
You gotta
also
fight for that.
game of inches.
It's also, you know, so much more violent. I saw that
It's gotten less violent.
It really has.
They have
have?
Guardian caps now.
Those are sick, by the way.
the Chargers have a 300-pound fullback.
What?
That dude rocks.
You still have fullbacks?
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Do we still have fullbacks?
Alec Ingold would like a word, Roy.
Kyle Juszczyk.
Well, then speak up,
Patrick
Alec Ingold.
Ricard. We've seen tonight.
Juszczyk might be a Hall of Famer. We'll get to that later.
You're not excited for football, Dan?
Well, I'm morally conflicted.
Oh, shut up. No, you're not. Every year with the morally conflicted. And guess what you're going to be talking about tomorrow? You're going to be talking about Ravens Chiefs.
You feed at the teat of the NFL, my friend. There's no moral conflict there.
You were so morally conflicted in Las Vegas, broadcasting live from the side of the big game.
DeMar Hamlin is starting for the Bills.
That's
He's
a
still
great
alive.
achievement. It's incredible.
Their defense has really gone downhill, huh?
Yeah. Can you what?
Too soon. Too soon. Oh,
Biggest game of your season.
What the hell's the matter with you?
Biggest game of your season, and you're running a fake punt with the guy that died. Like has enough time passed? Like, what was that call? A fake punt with DeMar Hamlin?
Remember when they said they cloned him?
Yeah.
I miss those days.
Yeah?
I miss those days.
Hop in one of my group chats. You won't miss it.
Stugotz declared tonight a must-win game for the Ravens.
Oh, thank God.
Not sure he's wrong.
They got a lot to prove, by the way.
Do they?
Oh, they
Ravens, yeah.
Not during not for the next 17
not
games.
during
They
the-
don't have anything to
no.
prove.
This
They
game
will.
right here.
They will play 17 games without having to prove anything in any of them.
All they have to prove is in the playoffs if their opponent scores more than 13 points. Then Lamar's got a lot of proving to do.
Did you guys see what Gardner Minshew said? Because it made me think of Tony, because I know people love this quote from him. He said, Van Gogh, they told him that he can't be a great painter because he had only one ear. And he said, I can't hear you.
Goat.
That's a direct quote, by the way.
Van Goat. How about that?
It's such a good Minshew quote. But again, the Chargers have a 300-pound fullback. He's 6'4", 300 pounds.
Ginger, too. Yeah. Red is, I don't know what, but he's ginger and he's ready to block somebody in the A-gap.
Red is I don't know what.
Chris, that's got to be your patron saint. You got to get that jersey
Yeah,
now.
that's my guy.
Can we rally around him? We have to rally around taking the game back to the 1940s when
I formation, Dano.
You do realize? Go do me a favor and look at all the offensive linemen. Do me a favor. On the undefeated 72 Dolphins, I believe Larry Little was the biggest offensive lineman at 270 pounds. I believe the Hall. I think
no way.
30 more pounds than your fullback for the Chargers.
I think I've got that right. Look at the undefeated Miami Dolphins of 1970.
265.
That's Larry Little is 265.
No
the
6'1", 265.
That's a dude.
That's just Golick. That's Mike Golick Jr. right now.
Not even. No, Mike Jr. is bigger than that. He's like 6'4", 6'1", 265. That's a regular dude.
So Van Gogh is like the first person to ever block out the noise because he did that to himself. That's the kind of commitment that you want from a quarterback. If Minshew, look, I'll put a future on the Super Bowl right now if Minshew cuts off his own ear.
Let me say this. He only cut off one ear. That means the noise coming from the other side. He definitely
Yeah, but he
heard
could
all
turn
of
it quicker to not hear that.
I don't know.
But they didn't even invent stereo when he did it.
So it's just mono.
Yeah, it was all mono. So he's like, I'm good. The Bluetooth works fine.
I'm not here for Van Gogh talk, man. I care not for some dude who cut his ear off because he was trying to impress a broad. Get out of here. I'm here to talk football.
You are?
Yes, hand in the dirt. You know what Chris said to me this morning?
Are you still allowed to say broad?
I don't think so.
That's not how you're supposed to speak to a dame. I mean,
Dames, can I say? It's some cut off his ear for some dame. No. You know what Chris said to me this morning, Dan?
Put it on the poll, Juju. Are you still allowed to say broad?
I guess Dan doesn't care what Chris said to me this morning. That's what I'm gathering.
Let's stay here, though.
Tua said what, Chris?
This is big, Dan. You think he made news with us? Yesterday, he said he has the it factor.
He does?
He said
You can't.
Oh,
and he
self-proclaimed it factor?
He said, not only do I have it, I've had it for a long time.
oh!
That is
He's just telling us now. Are you kidding me?
What a ridiculous thing for a person to say about themselves.
No.
Like,
Not ridiculous.
I've never heard that before. I have never heard someone say, I've got the it factor. Whatever it is, I got.
Had it for a while.
Had it for a while.
I got the intangibles.
Since high school, he said.
No, it's not I
didn't
got the
have it.
intangibles. That's not the same thing at all. That's a stinky quote.
It
I got the
factor.
intangibles. It factor is an entirely different thing. That's like almost third-person nickname. Like if you have a nickname and you've assigned it to yourself and then you say some form of, what's a good nickname these days? Give me
the Black Mamba.
Yeah, the Black Mamba. Imagine Kobe Bryant saying the Black Mamba says. You can't declare yourself someone as a haver of an it factor.
I just thought of a great nickname for Tua.
What's that?
He has the it factor. If.
The if factor?
No, he just
See,
we're
it's
gonna
just
call
if?
him. His nickname is If.
You
Because
fell-
IF.
Yeah, I know what you're doing, but you fell
If.
into his pit. Which
Let's
is,
go If.
Like the movie?
No, you guys don't like this?
No.
All right.
You're making it the if factor, which is a totally different thing.
I don't want that quarterback.
Actually,
Hey, what up, If?
if factor is probably more accurate,
Damn it.
considering his health.
I backed into that one.
Yeah, yes, you did.
fell
Like,
into the pit.
if Tua remains healthy,
And their O-line's good.
the Dolphins can have a really
And Tyreek's
special
healthy.
season.
You guys can do that. I'm just going to call him If.
Are you guys aware at the thin margin between it and if? The thin margin, the T and the F are awfully close to, and this is dangerous,
Look at
the
it.
L. The L, and now you're in L land with the if factor, and Tua can't say before a season that he's got the it factor when all of us are wondering if he's got the if factor.
Who are the If factor quarterbacks in the NFL? The If.
This is not an indicator of success.
Gardner
There's
Minshew.
been a lot of people that have the it factor. He's got an it factor about him. Johnny Manziel had an it factor. It doesn't necessarily spell out for success.
Yeah, apparently you have to play football as well, right? Like,
Does Daniel Jones have the If factor? Like if.
no, we know.
Well, let me ask
we
you.
know without.
Hold on. Let me ask you guys a question. It factors. What are the positions in football that even get to dare to declare that they have an it factor? Because none of us are saying a defensive tackle. Not even. We're not saying it.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Aaron Donald has
Aaron
it.
Donald.
That's
has
just
it.
a talent.
No, he's just great.
No, that's an it factor.
No,
No,
he's
it's
Just
That's
great.
not It factor.
No, it's a star
No,
quality.
it's not a star quality. It's a star skill position quality. We do not give it factors to a player who plays in the trenches.
Cornerback. Cornerback. I was about to say cornerback.
No, but that- okay.
We fundamentally disagree on that.
Wait a
Trained
minute.
with knives.
Wait a minute.
Dan Campbell has an it factor.
That's different. That's coach. That's a different category.
But he was a tight end.
That he didn't have it when he had it as a tight end. He did not have an it factor.
No, what I'm saying is it factor is not an indicator of success. You can have the it factor
Yes.
and be bad.
Tight end is also a skill position.
Wait, what?
Middle linebacker.
Not for Dan Campbell.
LT.
LT having it.
He got
He's
you
making
there.
pass
factor.
rushes.
He got you
Big
there.
time it factor.
Big time.
If you try to tell me one more time that Aaron Donald did not have the it factor,
yeah.
I'm going to tell him, hey, this guy says you don't have the
I'll
it
tell you
factor.
the difference. Like Khalil Mack, no it factor. Just great. Just a great
Just
player.
great.
But not an it factor.
No
Aaron
sizzle.
Donald, it factor.
Yeah.
Indomitian Sue, it factor.
I don't think that's how you say it.
Disagreed. Ndamukong Suh. Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Did Ndamukong Suh have the it factor? You guys are playing this game wrong.
Yeah, I'm with Dan.
He did have that it factor.
Yeah,
And
the it
Ndamukong
factor.
Suh
Okay,
absolutely
we can
did.
keep going back and
bad
forth
boy.
with he had it, he didn't have it, or you can when you say Dion got his it factor not from playing cornerback. He got it from returning things, like generally returning. Patrick Surtain is the highest paid corner in the league.
It factor.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an it factor.
Pat McAfee.
It factor.
A punter?
He's a punter.
Punter. We
Okay,
knew.
wait a minute.
Oh, no. I'm silly.
No, I'll give it to you. He's got it as a media personality. Didn't have it as a
What are you
punter.
talking
Agreed.
about?
No,
He was
agreed.
electric as a
Agreed.
punter.
Justin Tucker.
It factor.
That's an it
He's
factor
an
kicker. No, I'm
opera
with Roy on
singer.
this.
He's
He
cocky.
has,
Yeah.
He's the only
He's a
kicker.
star.
Kickers cannot have an
sings
it factor.
opera.
He's the
sings
only
that
kicker
as
with
it.
the it factor.
Janikowski.
The
It
only
factor.
one.
Janikowski.
Janikowski
had
had
it.
Guy was
the
ripping
it
cigarettes
Okay,
on the
maybe two.
sideline.
That's just
Vinatieri.
no.
Vinatieri? Does
Vinatieri.
he know?
Okay, you know what?
Vinatieri's
Vinatieri's
great.
good.
No,
Vinatieri's good. Yeah,
hold on.
What? No?
He was great, but a lot like Khalil Mack. You can be great, but not have the it factor.
What about
Janikowski
Okay.
did not have the it factor.
first of all-
Janikowski had a big leg.
You say that to a
Fact.
Tallahassee.
He was just a fat kicker. That's all it is.
Tucker has the it factor.
Hold on.
Dude,
I got
you
you.
might be too young to remember
I got-
Janikowski.
I
Yeah.
got the name. I got the name for you. Vinatieri, no it factor. Just great. Automatic Aldo Del Greco.
Oh,
It factor.
said.
That guy had it
Aldo
factor.
Greco.
Put it on the poll. Did Al Del Greco have the it factor? That's appalling to me.
guys have
No
lost
one
the
here
plot.
knows what the it factor is.
Did you watch those all his teams?
You don't know what the it factor is. If you say that Aaron Donald doesn't have it, if
Take
that guy,
it back.
If that guy
Take
doesn't
it back
have
that
it,
I don't know what
no
the
one
it
does.
factor is.
If
You
Aaron
think
Donald
I don't
doesn't
know
have
what
it-
the it factor is?
Clearly.
I've been calling games in this town for 30 years. Give me some pills to shake. The thing that we did not talk about that I am genuinely confused about this story, and I would want you guys to fill in some details for me on this, and we have not talked about it at all. The Commanders story that I saw, and God, the Commanders cannot do anything right. For a VP of content to shame the organization with what are you shaking your head about?
I mean, I think you need to give the details of the story before you start.
No, well, you're going to help me with the details of the story because I don't have all the details of the story because we haven't talked about this. But the part that stopped me and that was confusing is it's the first time that I have seen an NFL controversy, maybe there were others, where somebody is being secretly recorded while they seem to be on a date. And I just don't understand how any of that is okay. How I'm confused by the journalism of that. And I know that you can video people with and without their consent differently from state to state. But when I'm reading this story, and I'll get your thoughts on the details, and please tell the audience the things he said.
Right.
But when I read this happened in July, and it was on the second date that the VP of content for the Commanders was on. I have not seen a controversy in the NFL that involves a VP of content giving us wonderful, terrible content, like by accident while being secretly recorded. But the journalism of this, how are you allowed to record someone secretly and then all of a sudden on a date? And on a date, I'm like, what is the backstory that I am missing here so that I have the context? And please, fill us in on what it is that he said, because I'm thinking that what he said was just some general stereotypes that a whole lot of people are probably going to think that are, I don't know all of them, but a lot of people are going to nod their heads and say, well, yeah, I imagine that I could hit the NFL with some of those stereotypes. NFL players just make them all, big, dumb, and homophobic.
So the guy's name is Rael Enteen. He's the VP of content, as Dan has mentioned several times, for the Washington Commanders. He goes out on a date through Hinge, right? Links up with this woman who is secretly an undercover reporter for the O'Keefe Media Group. I'd be lying if I told you I've ever heard of him, right?
What is Hinge? I've never heard of Hinge.
Hinge is a dating app. Hinge is a dating app. So on the date, she records him saying, the general beats are, he called team players being anti-gay, accused Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones of being racist and anti-gay, and called NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell a $50 million puppet. Specifically, the quotes were,
that one's totally accurate. That one's totally accurate. He gets in no trouble except for Goodell, except for with Goodell on that one.
And just Google Jerry Jones' old photograph.
So the crazy thing is, nothing he said, I think, is like...
Is it nothing? Are you sure it's nothing? Because some of the stuff...
let me read the quotes. Quote, over 50% of our roster is white religious, and God says, F the gays. Their interpretation. I don't buy any of that.
Wait, this is a first date?
This second date.
I was going to say, this is an aggressive conversation.
I
For
don't
first
more
date.
relaxed.
Was that
What's
first
the-
or second Timothy?
Hold on.
Or was that Acts?
Wait, what's the percentage?
He said 50% of our roster is white religious. Then he said another big chunk is low-income African Americans that come from a community that is inherently very homophobic.
This feels like fifth date.
He then also said some players are, quote, dumb as hell, and some who are smart don't stay that way after getting hit in the head too many times.
Actually, I haven't been in the dating scene, but from my friends, this kind of actually sounds like first
This
date
guy
stuff.
sounds like he's real fun at parties.
He also said that those who, quote, get their heads knocked around a few times are more susceptible to conspiracy theories. All right, there's more. I don't think the commissioner of the NFL hates gay people, hates black people. Jerry Jones, who really runs the NFL, I think he hates gay people, hates black people. Then he said the social justice initiatives are performative. Quote, it's not done out of the goodness of their heart. It's done because George Floyd changed the game. It's to make as much money as possible. The NFL cares about the bottom line like any corporation above all else. They can prioritize DEI for the sake of good publicity. Then, wait, Dan, it gets better. He revealed that most of the fans are high school educated alcoholics and called them mouth breathers. And
That's what's going to get him gone right there. The rest of the stuff isn't going to get him gone. That's what's going to get him gone. You can't say that about the customer.
This has
paying
me.
customers,
This
by the
just
way.
has me thinking what Stugotz would have been caught saying if he was single.
Well, for one, he said he was John Wenner.
The backup catcher for the
backup
World
catcher.
Series Marlins. Yes, he wore a World Series ring.
I'm happy Chris mentioned that because on dates, people say a lot of things. Come on.
Alcohol's
Like-
flowing. You got a
like,
couple glasses of vino.
I was on a date.
that's my favorite part about this because all I'm thinking about is, dog, did you ask her about her life at all?
A lot of you.
Let's say, hey, man, that's not a good date strategy. You
This
gotta
seems like it was a sting operation from the jump.
Of
Yes.
course it was. But
My
And
boy
he-
should have known that.
And he bit it hook, line, and singer. He's just like, oh, you'd like to know all my info? Here you go. For second date, I don't really know you, but here you go. Here's everything.
Wow, this Merlot is strong.
I hear what I hear is a person who works sort of on the fringes of the NFL, trying to impress a date with how much he knows about the innards of the NFL.
not only that, Dan, but the old, they hate gay people. Not me, though. Big supporter of pride over here.
That was
What are your parents like?
What's your sign? That's first date. Second date is absolutely what Amin is saying there, which is let me take the moral high ground
Yeah.
of seeing whether or not you can find me to be more upstanding than these cavemen I work with. Let me tell you, I'm the VP of content. There's some irony there that's kind of wonderful that right now, as the Commanders are waiting to start their season, the only one of the Commanders in the news is the VP of content for reasons he does not want to be in the news.
Is any of this surprising?
Yes, it's a date and it's an investigative report.
No,
that-
what he said.
Well, no, but I'm. What he said is only news because it's being said by someone that has those three letters, NFL, on the name. It's not an important person. He's not a famous person, and what he's saying is not that inflammatory. But put NFL on it, and you've just Times Squared it. Like, you've made it something that we need controversy. Look, man, this isn't bad for that league. Jerry Jones knows this better than anybody. Just get my league attention. Doesn't matter why you're talking about my league. Nothing is bad enough. A dead person is starting for the Bills.
Well,
A formerly dead person,
the
excuse
clone.
me. A person who
clone.
was dead for a few minutes.
They getting cloned.
Yeah. I think we should applaud the Commanders for not putting this in an email. They've learned. That's also true. They've learned.
Yeah,
On the pie chart of blame, how high up is this reporter for doing something wholly unethical?
Well, can someone wait? So good question.
That's like if this dude loses his job for saying something that you've probably said in some kind of
Who's
form.
you?
You.
No.
Everybody.
No.
NFL fans have long. These are.
Well, I've
$50
never.
million puppet?
I have. Yeah,
The
that I've
royal
said.
you.
That I've said. Thank
Jerry
you.
Jones?
Yeah, I've said that. I've
Oh,
said
yeah.
that. Mouth breather? Yeah, I've said that. Yeah, high school drunks? Yeah, I've said that. Okay, you know what? You got
4 out of 5.
Like
got me.
John Gruden and Bruce Allen, I think, like they all lost their jobs, but they all did that like on their corporate email. This dude was taped against his knowledge.
Well, this is okay. Before we go any
It'd be
further,
funny if it wasn't against
like
his
not
knowledge.
in work, like he's not in his office. You know, he's just having a conversation.
But I love the idea of her pulling out the camera and be like, no, say that again. Like what? Which part? The part where they're alcoholic mouth breathers?
It's just
Goodell's a puppet? I'd say it again. I'd say it a million times.
Like, especially considering what he said and how it was captured. If this dude is terminated, I'm just saying he's got a wrongful termination lawsuit.
It's suspended.
I would like, before the end of the show, for you guys to get me some information on what happened here with the journalism of illegally or not illegally taping someone and the ethics of that. But before you go any further on this story, the part to me that is really great is she didn't get what she needed on the first date.
She had to do a second one.
You don't know that.
Well, no, I do know that. Unless there's something better that she is going to report soon, she had to fish it out of him on the second date. I have questions about how the first date went and how the first recording went because I'm going to assume, should I not assume that the first date also had some recording, or you just try and butter him up with the first date so that you can get the good stuff, the juicy stuff on the second date?
I only crush you on the second date when it goes well. So, like, if it doesn't go well the first date, I'm not going to start ripping Dan yet. All right.
So where was the date at, right? Is it in Virginia?
It's in
Was it
DC.
in Washington?
Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow. Because Virginia's laws is private conversations, illegal to record private conversations even in a public place.
Yeah.
I'm going to check DC.
Check DC.
Yeah.
Also Google Watergate.
The fact, though, I want to sort of go through the labyrinth of how this investigation unspools. You go on the first date, and are you extra charming because the whole goal is to just get somebody to say these things that you want him to say for the controversy? Like, what is happening on the first date that lubricates him enough so that he's doing what he did on the second date?
Guys, the other part about this, I'm looking at the story here. They only had 2 dates, meaning after date 2, there was no.
But I guess what I'm asking you guys, is there the possibility that the first date goes so well that they just fall in love and this never happens?
That's a great movie plot. We should pitch that.
Yes.
Look, falling in love wasn't part of the plan, Dan.
It never is.
Or did it go so poorly that she then, like, the first date was so bad that she was like, I'm going to do the equivalent of journalistic revenge porn. I'm going to get him on the second date.
That's a great.
Small J. This is real bad. Like Chris has been Googling like what this entity is,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they have a history of apparently doing this, and they think that they're doing some kind of noble deed. They're reputable people that are pushing this stuff out there. There was, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but considering how this was captured, I'm really surprised that the New York Times is just like putting it out there.
Well, I was less interested. I'm honestly saying this. I was less interested in what the controversy actually is than how it is we arrived at the controversy, because that seemed wildly unethical to me, but I don't have enough context. It's why I want you guys to get me somebody who can talk about what just happened here, because he will be fired for this.
No,
like
he's
whether
been
the
suspended. He's been
But
suspended.
he's been suspended. He will be fired, and I'm not sure how legal or ethical the journalism was. I saw an interesting quote from Dak Prescott that I wanted to ask you guys about because he was talking about Jerry Jones. And I was just wondering, as somebody who I just had this conversation yesterday with Amin. I was talking to Amin about how I'm like, I don't feel like I'm a very good leader. I don't know how to lead. And he was telling me that it's funny because all he's been around in sports is a bunch of different people who lead. And he asked me the question, have you been led by anyone? Like, do you know how to lead? And I'm like, no, I don't know how to do it. So Jerry Jones leads the Cowboys, and he's led them into a sewer since Jimmy Johnson left. Like, they don't win very much. They're famous and interesting, and the star on the helmet is redundant, but the team's not been terribly excellent. And
weren't you led by Michael Keaton in Spotlight?
Yeah.
That guy seemed like a good leader.
Yeah.
Marty Barron, the former executive editor of the Miami Herald, was a good leader, had no interactions with him. Like, he led the paper well, but I didn't know him very well, and so like there was separation. The sports department wasn't where they were paying attention.
What about Greg? Did Greg lead you?
Greg Cody?
Yeah, mentor.
Greg.
Not a good start.
Pope?
I mean,
Mentors
led
are
me.
leaders.
I guess he influenced me. He
I
didn't.
did to the nearest bar.
He didn't. Yeah, led me toward 12 beers.
Dollaritas.
I think at this point you can only lead yourself.
Wow.
Like
That's
that's
deep.
what I'm doing
It's
right now.
very profound.
But I need to lead others. We've got 45 employees, and so
45.
Yeah, it's a
You just
lot.
hire some more people?
Well, that's
a good
the,
number.
That's the solution to everybody. That's the solution to everything is hire more people.
Not as good as 47.
Dak Prescott said of Jerry Jones, who fancies himself the leader of the Cowboys, and it's a fairly ridiculous leader of the Cowboys in that no other owner is doing that peacocking show on the sidelines and giving press conferences and doing all of that while not winning and consistently saying things to make headlines because, as I told you before, he doesn't care about the headlines. He understands better than anyone that it doesn't matter if you're racist as long as you're the power in the circus. Like, just bring him into the tent, and you can get caught in all sorts of scandals off the field, and it doesn't matter whether it's your team or whether it's you. You're going to get away with everything because you're the power in that league. Dak Prescott said of his boss and the leader of that team, quote, "I mostly stopped listening to things he said to the media a long time ago. It doesn't hold weight with me." And the question I wanted to ask you guys about leadership is when the owner of the team is saying things in public that reporters are always asking the quarterback about, and those things can be insulting or lower his value or be about how he's not as worth as much as he thinks he is, how would you feel as an employee? Would you be able to do what Dak Prescott is doing in his position if your boss was perpetually in public saying things about you and you as the quarterback had to prevent those headlines because you don't want to welcome into your huddle the way that you're arguing over money? Would you be able to do what Dak Prescott is doing when he says, I just don't pay any attention to that stuff. It's all professional wrestling. Jerry Jones does whatever he wants to do.
That's a great question. Chris, what do you think?
You got this.
You see what we did there, Dan?
Why'd you do that?
Pass the ball.
Because the whole thing is like, would you be able to do your job if people told you were always incompetent and you suck at your job in a very public forum? Wow. And I was like, oh.
What a stray.
You just opened my eyes. Thank you for that.
Well, I'm just saying. What now? Now what?
No, oh, wow.
Penalty, 5 minutes, ruining comedy.
Ruining comedy. It was a perfect joke. It was a perfect joke.
It was a give and go.
Who is getting
Is
penalized?
this a double minor?
It's a major. It's
a major. He said it was a major.
It's one major, and it's for Amin.
Yeah. That's a right call. Good VAR.
Man, good job, Stripes.
No. I do this under protest.
What do you okay?
Whoa.
What do you mean no?
Everyone's saying good
I am
call in the
protesting.
stands. Even the opposing fans are like, yeah, they got us.
Don't get him misconduct now.
I kind of feel like I got away with one there though, because I didn't really help Amin.
I mean, I was
Threw him
confused by
back
it,
a
dude.
dead
I
fish.
was confused. I was confused. I didn't know where to
wasn't
go.
a dead fish.
It was a good call. It was a good
He
call.
threw back. Yeah, it's like, hey, what do you think?
Good
I'm like, well,
call.
I'm not the one that they call incompetent, but I guess I am now because Dan just gave me a 5-minute major and I'm not left yet. So, yeah, under protest.
Okay, duly noted. You strenuously object.
Your
I got
protest
it.
has been recorded and documented.
We'll put it in the file.
Take it up with the league.
Chris Cody, can you give me, please, and thank you for allowing me to have that that preamble that was way too long, and then the answer got no good answer from anybody except a joke that ruined comedy. Appreciate it. Like
I don't want to call Dak a liar. I mean, it's pretty unavoidable, especially the way that he's covered. He just doesn't walk by a television. They talk about, if you walk past ESPN1 at this time, there is like a 15% chance they're talking about you. And if the TVs are on NFL Network, there is also like a 10% chance that they're talking about you. Maybe it's gotten a little bit better now that Skip Bayless doesn't have a place to speak into to an audience, but I don't necessarily. I think being skeptical. What else is he going to say?
You wouldn't like it, Mike.
No, I wouldn't.
None of us would.
No, I don't want to work for Jerry Jones. It seems very difficult. And at that position for the marquee franchise in the league, it's very difficult. But what else is he going to say? He has to say that.
He should have given the Minshew quote. Been like, Van Gogh only had one ear. I'm only listening to one side of the noise. That's it.
Tony,
I'm not worried
call.
about that.
Tony, great call, because that's a badass response.
The part, though, that to me, and I don't know whether you guys absorb this or care about this, we made a musical for those of you who are watching us on Peacock, and it was something that we were very proud of. And one of the themes of the musical that we believe was better than that musical, made at far less cost than the Mannings just made, is the idea that there is nothing that can stop what tonight and what Sunday are. And the reason Jerry Jones has the power that he does with a franchise that, if you look at their record, my guess is that if you look since Jimmy Johnson left, you can surprise me with a couple of franchises that are largely irrelevant that have won more than the Cowboys have and have certainly won more playoff games than the Cowboys have. And the magic of Jerry Jones's power is he's got the most valuable team in the NFL. They're usually not Super Bowl good. They're usually not a playoff winner. And it doesn't matter because he knows it's the circus. And it doesn't matter if you have foul odors at the circus. It doesn't matter if you have elephant at the circus. The circus is the biggest entertainment there is anywhere around money consistently. And he sits atop it, and he doesn't even have to win to do it. It's smoke and mirrors. Like that star on that helmet remains shiny because of the reputation from 30 years ago, and because he keeps it alive with his mouth, and because he keeps going to the sideline, and he thinks he's the reason it's that valuable. And soon he will have a 10-part documentary on Netflix to celebrate how much he hasn't won the last 30 years.
You say that he's not winning. He's definitely winning. He's just not winning on the field in profound ways. But he is winning. In business, that dude won damn near better than any other owner in professional sports. He is the crown jewel of the biggest thing in this country.
Don't you guys think it's fascinating, though, that it doesn't even have to win or be excellent to be that? That Jerry Jones's thing, that the parts are all interchangeable. It doesn't matter whether Dak Prescott is their quarterback or Tony Romo is their quarterback. The Dallas Cowboys quarterback is going to be famous if they win 9 games.
Yeah, but there are marquee franchises in the NFL that fall by the wayside, that had their day, and because they got stopped talking about when the success stopped. We don't stop talking about the Dallas Cowboys ever, and it's in large part due to the guy up top, Jerry Jones. So I do think that he has a huge hand in how the league has been so successful, because under his shadow leadership, it's exponentially grown. When he arrived, it was already one of the biggest things.
You do understand, though, that the way that he does that business while doing that do-si-do thing he did in front of the American flag while a Commander's VP of content says that he's a racist.
And anti-gay.
You do realize that that person has made evident to all of us for many years that the coach doesn't matter, like in terms of how he sees the importance of the coach. And in this instance, he's telling us that the quarterback's feelings don't matter either. because that leader is telling you he is the boss at all times because he's the money. I just can't believe he gets to stay that when they never win important games. Like, I thought you had to win some important games in 30 years. Like, go ahead and give them to me. I'll wait. America's most famous team, most powerful team, most money team. I'll wait. I give you 3 decades. Give me all the games you remember that the Cowboys won in the playoffs, because the one I remember is Tony Romo couldn't hold an extra point when he was the holder on an extra point and they lost to Seattle. They've won a couple of memorable games, but not many.
The last time they won a playoff game, what I'm looking at here, was the 1995 Super Bowl. That was the last playoff game they've won.
No, that can't be right. That can't be right. Dak's got 2 playoff. Dak has 1 or 2 playoff victories.
I think they won one last season.
I mean, past the divisional playoffs. My bad.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, hold on.
They've lost in the division.
Wait a minute.
I was doing research.
We've got a major penalty, 5 minutes, derailing.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
12 games of 9-7.
You looked it up and you came to me with 0 playoff wins.
I was looking up something else, but
Get out.
12 games, 8-8 or under. Just keep talking as you go.
I'm going to turn it off.
Out. Just get out.
I like that Dan is trying to shame a dude that was photographed with his pants down.
I stand with you, Tony.
You guys know what we got coming up next segment? We're going out to Kansas City.
No way.
Checking Stugotz. Billy Gill.
Whoa. They are there in the middle of a city that once booed unity.
And we are marveling. We're going to laugh next segment. We have pictures of Stugotz next to Golick Sr. I mean, Jesus.
This is funny because I heard in the other room they were all saying, how does Golick Sr. look so much better and healthier than Stugotz?
Wild.
Here's a hint. Being healthy.
Not 2 packs a day.
Is that the reason? Because Golick is looking better and better every day, and Stugotz is looking worse and worse every day. So he's celebrating football season with yellow fingers smelling of nicotine, and once again, he hasn't bothered to shave while wearing a shirt pulled from the trunk of his car. This is very exciting. Are you guys excited right now? Because it is not merely that Stugotz has landed in Kansas City to officially signal that football has started. It's the Duke, the internationally ranked fourth insider in any continent, any country, any galaxy, 4th.
Top 5, and he's not 5, Dan.
That's correct. The Duke, Billy Gill. God bless football. Has arrived in Kansas City. Where are you guys? What is that statue of? Tell me all the history you're standing in front of right there.
We are in front of an innovative pioneer, a man of vision, as the trophy says. This is the Lamar Hunt statue, Dan Le Batard. And as you can see here, we're also in front of the not 1, 2, 3, but 4 Lombardi trophies that the Kansas City Chiefs have won. We are at Arrowhead Stadium, and today, football is back.
It is back. Dan, did you realize the Lombardi trophies were that big? That's insane, right?
I am startled by the
hoist them over their head so easily. Right?
Yes, I am startled by the size of all of those. That's exactly how Stugotz would do it if he won 4 Super Bowl trophies. Stugotz, I was thrilled. I was legitimately made happy when I walked in here today, and on all the television screens, you were sitting between both of the Golicks on the DraftKings network. And then the commentary started of how much better Mike Golick Sr. looks like he's aged since leaving ESPN than you have.
Oh, no question about it. And then I saw Trey Wingo, and he is aged better than I have as well, and he's 15 years older. But, Dan, this is like heaven for me. Arrowhead Stadium, football season is starting. I am sandwiched between the Golicks. I see Trey Wingo, and I get a text from Adam Schefter that simply reads, "Happy football." Oh, my God.
Oh, the porta potties are rolling in, guys. It's about to start.
By the way, guys, there are 2 St. Louis's, a couple of St. Louis's cutting it up because we are currently 2 Kansases. I'm sorry, I'm tired. We got it 2 in the morning. We are in Kansas City, Missouri right now. We're not actually in Kansas. If we walk like 50 feet to my left right now, we'll be in Kansas. But right now, Missouri.
Did you think we were in St. Louis?
I did.
Do it, Stugotz. Walk to Kansas.
He thought.
Cross
I'm
the
going
line.
to right now.
All right, hold on.
Let's walk to Kansas.
All right,
Hold on.
go ahead.
All right.
All right, so we're going to walk to Kansas. Danny, follow us.
All right.
Dan, can I tell you something? The people here are crazy. So we got here at local time about 7 a.m., and there's already outside of the parking lot people waiting to get in. But this is the thing that they do because where we had to drive in was gate 5, and there's like a line of already 50 cars waiting. The game doesn't start for another 12 hours. And their tailgating tents they've set up outside the stadium while they're waiting in line, and they're custom made and say Gate 5 crew. So they just come 12 hours, I guess, before every game, before the parking lot opens. Also, not that you've asked, but over there, so like these, I don't know if you can see these. These are like VIP tailgating things, I guess, for like companies, corporations, or whatever. And there was a lot of talk, a lot of hubbub in the offseason about the fact that there was going to be a Hallmark Christmas movie with the Chiefs. I can confirm that there is a Hallmark Christmas VIP setup here at the tailgate. No one's here yet, but they will be set up. There's a stage over there. I'm assuming there will be a performance of sorts. No confirmation as to who will be performing. There is speculation Taylor Swift will be in the building today. Will she be performing at that little stage over there? Who knows? Not I.
Are you guys in Kansas yet?
We're getting close.
I don't know.
We are getting close.
Feels like a lot more than 50 feet. That's what I'm.
I don't think that they've got any accurate information. Stugotz, I don't think that they're playing the Bengals, which is what you said yesterday. I don't think there are 2 St. Louis's. I don't think you're in St. Louis, and I don't think that you're steps away from Kansas.
There's the Golix over there, if you were wondering. Look at that. Look at this Good Morning America type setup here. Look at this.
So we are just 10 feet away, 10 steps away from being in Kansas.
You see us?
We are.
We should have brought a sign.
Oh, let's wave.
How are we going to get on TV?
All right, Billy, we're getting close to Kansas. Hey, stay with me.
Yeah.
All right.
That's Mikey A over there.
All right. Billy, one more step, and we're in Kansas. Here it is.
That's not true.
This is it.
That's not.
You're
You're deciding
the step? So now,
no, I am telling you, I've been told by the people who work here that this is Kansas.
That's
you're
not,
in Kansas.
You're not in.
You're not in Kansas. You're not in Kansas. What do you mean?
We're not in Kansas anymore.
That's not the way any of this works.
Had to be said. Had to be said.
Or ooze if you listen to Mystery Crate.
There's a big Chiefs helmet over there. I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, you want to see the helmet?
Football is back.
Do you know the helmets were that big, Dan? Look
this
at
is
the size
really
of this
fun.
helmet over here. Look at this thing.
Go to the helmet.
It's on wheels. Should we push it?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go
ahead. Go to the helmet. See if you could get dragged off by security.
Let's take the helmet back to Missouri.
Also, in case anyone was wondering, what kind of rental car I was waiting for at 2 in the morning as Stugotz left me at the airport and went to the hotel in an Uber, it's a 15-passenger van that I got because that's all that was left.
Wait a minute, Billy. What?
Billy,
what happened?
One man was driving a 15-passenger van at 2 in the morning.
Billy, what happened at 2 o'clock
arrived,
in the morning?
Our flight arrived a little late, and there's time change. So we arrived around 1:32 a.m. Eastern time, and Stugotz told me that he had checked his bag. I said, okay, well, I have to go get the rental car that they told me about right before the flight. So I went to get the rental car, and then he said, all right, well, I'm just going to take an Uber back because, it doesn't make sense for you to have to drive over there and get me.
Guys, pass the mic through the helmet.
It's like an Abbott and Costello bit.
He just hit himself in the face
so hard.
With the
He might be bleeding.
Fuentes.
I mean, it's unbelievable that Chris is producing the show from back in Miami. I have 2 guys with me that don't realize. Hand me the mic once I get in the helmet. Sorry.
Yeah, there's also some user error there too, Stugotz. Let's be honest. I would have loved you on your own trying to figure that one out.
Billy, can you give us?
What do you guys want to know? How do we best utilize our time here? What can we?
Well,
tell
you've
you? What can we
done
report
fine
from
so
the
far
ground for
through
you?
the first 6 minutes, where you tell us that the people in the stadium told you could walk to Kansas. It's just over there, and you decided where Kansas is. If you could break any other news about changing the way that land is distributed throughout the Americas, or tell us what's happening in Kansas City at the hotel when you're spending time with Stugotz, because Billy, you haven't traveled with Stugotz a whole lot, and him getting up in the morning, smoking cigarettes, coffee breath, like the whole thing seems like it would smell bad.
Well, that's another thing, Stugotz. He acted surprised as though he didn't know the arrangement for today and was upset with me because he was on with the Golix starting at 7 a.m., so their car left at 5:50 in the morning to make sure to get here on time, get everything set up, and then was upset with me when I was like, well, yeah, like we're trying to get there at 7:30. I'm not going on with them. We have to be there at 9:30, so we're going to try to get there by 7:30. And then he kept hitting me with, my plane landed 4 hours ago. To which I responded to myself, I was on that same plane. This excuse is not going to work with me. Like everyone else, you can kind of get to feel bad, but I was on that same flight and then waited an hour for a rental car.
Wait, you guys were on the same flight and he didn't wait for you?
That's what's funny about
I
this.
thought it was like a different flight, and it's like he was supposed to wait. No, same flight? This is ridiculous.
It is.
I am just finding out now that Billy was on my flight.
Yeah, someone was in the front row in first class. Someone else was in the 19th row. So
not first class.
Different class situation here.
Stugotz, do you feel?
I'm doing my fantasy draft. Yeah.
Do you feel
that
any?
That is true. He arrived at the airport and told me that he couldn't talk to me because he had a fantasy draft as we were boarding the flight, which is insane.
Do you feel any remorse?
Back to you, Dan.
Do you feel any remorse, Stugotz, about what you? What do you mean about what? That Billy needed you to take him back to the hotel because you were on the same flight, and you did know that you were on the same flight, and you didn't want to waste any more time, so you let him pick up a 15-passenger minivan and drive.
Not a minivan. That's a van, Dan.
No, there's a big boy van.
Sprinter van.
I'm looking into getting one of these. There's so much room in there.
Dan, Billy is leaving out certain details, okay? I checked a bag in. Billy did not. I had to go to baggage claim, and I was telling Billy in an effort to be efficient, hey, you go straight to the rental car, take it to the hotel. I will pay for an Uber and go to the hotel. I have to get my bag. Plus, I had to wake up earlier than Billy did, so I just wanted to get to a bed and get some sleep. And so Billy is leaving those details.
Well, and pretended he didn't know he had to get up early, and then was like, I don't want to say blaming me, but blaming me. Back to you, Dan.
Billy, you were skeptical, or you made a sound that seemed skeptical about how well Trey Wingo has aged. Why did you do that, and what has happened this morning? Has Trey Wingo been defeated by morning radio? Did he immediately start aging when he started doing morning radio, and he went from being beautiful? Yes.
Listen. This is just between us. He's just been wandering around the parking lot. I don't know if you come here, Danny. I don't know if you could see him back there. He's just been wandering around kind of by himself a little bit. We noticed before, like
a loon.
You see these metal pylons here? Come here, Danny. Stugotz, give me that microphone.
Can I stay in the helmet?
No, yeah, sure. You can stay in the helmet, but give me this microphone. Don't move. Just stay there. Then I know where you are. We saw before a situation where Trey, I guess, was bored and like, follow me, Danny. Danny, turn this way. Look at me. Zoom out. All right. Trey was just doing one of these. Where he was kind of just going in and out of the pylon.
The old weave.
And someone compared it to like an Olympic like ski slalom situation that he was doing. And I feel bad because they flat out told it, like, this place is hard to get into and there's levels of security and it's like confusing or whatever. They've pretty much told us you can't leave because you're not going to be able to get back in. So we're here through the end of the game, and I think that has hit Trey in a way that it's hit everyone else differently. And I don't think that he's super thrilled that he has to be here for, I don't know, another 16 hours potentially. So we're just kind of leaving Trey alone until we need to talk to him.
Danny, pan to him again. We want to see him again. Where's sad Trey? Come on, let me see him. Where's he at? Find him again.
He has said that he's too far away. He's off in the distance
Danny.
over there. Oh, don't look him in the eyes. A lovely man.
Not just
He's
lovely.
going to be on God Bless Football today.
But symbolically, that lovely man just needs to be wandering around the fringes of football. Like wherever football is and wherever football is going to start, Trey Wingo, you can understand how, if you've seen what's happened to us the last 3.5 years, you can understand how it is that one gets untethered when they leave ESPN and the center of football and gets thrown to the fringes of football.
Stugotz is.
I need this photo,
Yeah,
Stugotz.
this isn't the perfect shot. Look,
That's an iconic
Yes,
photo.
let's
there.
get that glam shot of Stugotz.
Oh, yes, with the porta potties in there. That is iconic right there.
What a beautiful photo. Bigger and better than the Super Bowl trophies right there. Those are Stugotz's 4 Super Bowl trophies. Can I get...
I'll make that my Twitter banner. That was incredible.
Yes, it was wonderful. You'd think we'd planned it. Can you guys please get up for me on the screen the before and after photos of Golic and Stugotz, what they looked like?
Trey's back if you want
That's
to
at
check in with him.
ESPN right there, what we're looking at.
This is them at ESPN. There's an unhealthy Mike Golic and a very healthy Stugotz.
And now?
And now, what do we have?
Very healthy.
As Trey walks into the stadium.
Oh, sad Trey. There's. All right,
That's right, Dan. I made them turn the camera around because Trey was losing around. You
want us to check in with him?
Yes, we'll check back in with you later. Thank you, guys.
I'm afraid.
That was a pretty good photograph we got of Stugotz
So good.
there in front of the porta potties, ringing in the new NFL season from Kansas City, or as he likes to call it, St. Louis.
Also, if we Google it, there's got to be more than one St. Louis. It's a safe bet.
St. Louis, Kansas.
Yeah, but you knew that there are certain moments in time, be it politics, be it athletics, where you see something happen live, and you're like, man, that's going to make one hell of a picture. And as Stugotz was posing there inside the Kansas City Chiefs helmet with porta potties, we couldn't have planned. If we tried to plan that out, it would have gone wrong. With porta potties going behind him and a stadium also behind him, that made me so excited for football. And it's honestly the best Stugotz has looked in years.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, because we didn't get to the photo that I wanted to get to of before and after. And this was good journalism done by Danny and the crew out there, because the segment required the punctuation of a haunting and haunted Trey Wingo meandering around the parking lot facility, not knowing where to go, burnt out by morning radio, like just totally fried by what ESPN did to him by making him get up early in the morning. And I say ESPN did to him because anyone that has to work morning radio anywhere will age 10 years faster than anyone else. So here is a photo of Mike Golick at ESPN and Stugotz at ESPN. This is when they were much younger. Golick, it is funny to see him that way. He doesn't look like that at all. He is absolutely sexy silver fox. Like
This gives me hope.
He has lost a lot of weight, and women are absolutely looking him up and down because of how good he looks. He is a very large man. He is. I very rarely feel small around people. Both Golicks make me feel a little bit small.
Ozempic?
Wow.
No, he actually, I think he owns a bunch of Orange Theories. Yeah, I talked to him about this because it's the first thing that you say. When we were at ESPN, he looked a certain way, and he's had such an incredible glow-up at an age where it's hard to have a glow-up. And I asked him, what's your secret? Orange Theories.
He says buying Orange Theories.
Buying Orange Theories and then getting the money from that to have Ozempic.
Having money.
There you go.
Can we see this photo now, please, of them now? Stugotz does look a little bit better than he did on my television screen, but Stugotz
not good.
Does not look good. No, he does not. He
Believe it or not, that is a flattering photo of Stugotz.
Golick's got the veiny neck going. It's just all working for him right now.
Everything is working for him.
He looks like
a veiny neck.
I'm thirsty for
Love a veiny neck.
Do I want to bang my Golick Senior? What is happening right now? This guy's incredible. He's got me all hot and bothered.
yeah.
Feeling tingles in places.
Yeah, he's a very sexy man.
Tony, because people around here don't know how sometimes things hurt, you have not spoken since you got that playoff stat wrong. Because
That kind of thing, Dano. What I meant to say that there was 5 playoff wins for the Cowboys since 1995, but I also had a lot of things written down. They've had 12 seasons of 9-7 or better, and 12 seasons of 8-8 or worse. So there's a lot of mediocrity.
Roy, why are you laughing? Why do you laugh at the failure of others, Roy?
I don't laugh at the failure of others. I'm just saying what he just said. I meant to say 5 playoff wins since 1995.
But he said 0.
He said 0.
That's right.
0, yeah.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Have you ever said 5 when you actually meant 0?
There's a lot of numbers. If you see the papers that I'm looking at, there's a lot of numbers on them, and a 0 just slipped in.
Well, thank you, because speaking of numbers, I've got some for you. Give me the stat of the day here.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is the start of the day.
I'm going to give you guys 2 OLI stat of the days. These are not the stat of the day. It's building up to the stat of the day. The bronze medalist for stat of the day. Do any of you want to guess how many times Luis Arias has struck out since the All-Star break? Since the All-Star break, contact hitter, led the league in hitting 2 years and batting
Gotta
average.
be 10 to 15.
Once.
Twice. 2 times. Thank you, Amin, for ruining the game, just like Stugotz would. 2 times Luis Arias has struck out since the All-Star break. Does anyone want to guess in the last 50 games, 50 baseball games, how many the White Sox have won? The White Sox have won how many games in their last 50?
52.
I was scrolling through. I was scrolling through the DraftKings sportsbook, and I couldn't believe some of these odds for baseball games
It's
featuring
crazy.
the White Sox.
They won last night, and they're like plus 400.
I saw the Orioles as like minus 400 in baseball.
22.
The White Sox have won 5 of their last 45, if you were not counting last night.
Or 0, depending. Right, Tony?
Thank you.
Yes, or 0. Correct.
A lot of numbers. I'm going to show you this page. It's a lot of zeros on here.
I think Grady Sizemore's actually improved their winning percentage, right?
He'd have to, I would suppose. But they're on pace to be the worst team in the history of our most historic sport. But neither of those are the stat of the day. The stat of the day, stolen by Dan Patrick. Stolen from Dan Patrick, I should say. Not by Dan Patrick. Dan Patrick, a pioneer here on Peacock. He helped us learn a lot of things, and he taught us stat of the day. That's something we just simply stole from him. We said it was a retaliatory measure. It was not. We said he had stolen something. It was not. We just simply stole it and then made an excuse. This is from Denny Carter. Anthony Richardson, the Colts quarterback, since high school, has started 17 games.
Again, but you saw him throw that ball in the pro day, and you're like, wait a second.
I'm
That's
just
the guy.
telling you, the starting quarterback for the Colts since high school has started 17 football games.
That's wild.
That's nuts. Pablo Torre from Pablo Torre Finds Out is joining us. I believe this is the 1-year anniversary of Pablo Torre, the award-winning Pablo Torre Finds Out. He follows his curiosities and he wins awards.
Oh, he won the Edward R. Murrow Award. Oh,
That's
look
right.
at me. I'm a journalist. Edward R. Murrow.
What's that voice? Why is the Edward R. Murrow Award getting that voice? What's that about?
Edward R. Murrow sounds like the name of a middle school.
Put it on the poll,
Wow.
please, Juju. Does Edward R. Murrow sound like the name of a middle school? Because it does. He's totally right.
You know, generally, middle schools are named after impressive people. I don't know why that is a burn.
It's a burn because he got it right. It doesn't sound like a prestigious journalism award. It sounds like a middle school. He is correct on this. And since you're a prestigious journalism winner, one of the last keepers of journalism, we wanted to bring you on to ask you about this Commanders story because I was more interested in the way that it was broken than anything that was broken by the content or the news. If you're just joining us and don't know this story, VP of content for the Commanders was on a second date. He was secretly recorded by a reporter, and I didn't think that was allowed. And he said some things that were stereotypical, but not that controversial. Controversial because they were being said by someone who represents the NFL. I mean, controversial, but not that controversial. And I was, from what I read, more bothered by the way the information was gathered than the information. So what do you know about how the information was gathered?
Yeah. Using the experience I've gained in 1/20th of the time your show has existed, Dan, I've come to realize that degree of difficulty when it comes to journalism is a lot of the point of journalism. And degree of difficulty, of course, is imposed by ethics. And so James O'Keefe, who you may remember as the troll who used to run a thing called Project Veritas, is the guy whose company published this piece. And so I've known his work for a long time because he's one of these far-right, totally dishonest grifters, but don't even take my word on that. Just go look it up. He got fired by his own organization, lawsuits, etc., all of that, alleged, blah, 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 blah. Okay. The point being, the information he got, it's hard to dispute that the thoughts he got were candid and, in a way, the most honest version of what this commander's head of content, VP of content, actually believed. And for that reason, of course, I am perversely always interested in, like, what's that like? But in terms of, like, the journalism of it, he's cheating the game, literally. He is breaking rules. breaking any ethical code, which requires you to disclose that you're not secretly recording somebody under false pretenses. And so in that way, as a person who cares about degree of difficulty in journalism, it's entirely a problem, even though the information, of course, I clicked on, which is the larger problem, I guess.
Okay, but let's break this down for a second, because this feels dirty, and
yes,
it feels like it'd be illegal in a lot of places,
in some states.
And now we're doing now we're doing borderline illegal journalism to shame an NFL VP of content. Like, I don't even know how high I'd have to climb for me to be okay with what you're saying here, Pablo. Like, I don't know how powerful the person would have to be for me to be okay with recording this way. How much of a public official, like, maybe if it was just some atrocity being said by a very powerful public politician, I might be willing to stretch some journalism ethics here, but this seems like a reach to go get a Commander's VP of content on this.
Yeah, it's first off just not journalism, and any claim to it. Again, what is journalism? A set of practices that impose a degree of difficulty based on ethics. It's not that. He calls it that. It is not that. But the conversation you're describing is one, of course, that real large institution like the New York Times have debated when it comes to, we got these leaks. You know, we have a source inside who is saying stuff that maybe are disclosing troop movements during a war, right? Like, do we want to go through with this because of a public good being discovered? The classic move when it comes to this guy, James O'Keefe, and his whole operation is that these are actually, in the main, very low stakes, entirely tabloid sort of news stories that in this case actually do sort of comport with what his audience actually would like to believe about the NFL. What the guy was saying, which is that all of these players and fans are not liberals. They're actually, on the side of all of these issues that the media doesn't want you to know they're really on. That stuff isn't shocking. And it's also not something that does anything to advance a new understanding of certainly what might qualify as public interest. So yeah, it's a nothing burger in general that I clicked on because I wanted to see what uncensored people talking is like. And again, that's why he did it. I am guilty of the thing that he wanted me to do.
Pablo, I think the real question here is was this the worst second date of all time?
Man. It's up there, right?
It can't get much worse.
Got to be up there.
And I'm not saying because he got caught in a sting operation and he might lose his job. It's because he talked about the NFL on his second date. Like, hey, maybe you ask some questions, buddy. Maybe you get to know her a little bit.
I mean, the critique that I would give the VP of content who got ensnared in this entire thing is that he was so excited for someone to ask him these questions.
Oh.
And it was like, and I think one of the setups was, and it was a bad, even if this is just like an unethical spy operation, it was also not a good one. If you look at what the questions were like, hey, could you go through your take on Commanders fans again? Like that's really what you're talking about on this date. And he was like, absolutely. I figured someone would eventually ask me for my demographic breakdown of Commanders fans on a second date.
I told you guys that's what happened. I told you. He absolutely asked.
Pretty weak-ass mark for a sting operation, too. Like, if you're going to secretly tape somebody about the inner workings of the NFL, go after the dude that runs the Commanders' Twitter account.
How do you catch them on Hinge, by the way? They just luck of the draw? They just keep swiping until we get to
that's
them?
the VP of content. Get him.
Yeah, what can we do with this? I just got matched with the VP of content for the Commanders.
Do you think he puts VP of content Commanders on his Hinge profile?
Pablo is so right here when he says the VP of content for the Commanders had to be thinking to himself at some point before all of this was published, man, I'm really connecting with her. She's asking me all the right questions I've always wanted to be asked by somebody who's super fascinated by my identity as someone who's an insider in the NFL. Like, he thought that date was going really well. He really misread the situation.
Oh, yeah. He's like, I'm killing it right now.
She is fascinated.
Is this love? Is this what love feels like? Talking about the demographic breakdown of the fan base of the NFL team whose Twitter account I now operate, having followed a person who sort of saw this team through a demographic scandal.
See, now I'm thinking about him on the drive home, calling up his good buddy Derek or whatever. Hey, Derek, oh, how'd the date go? Oh, man, it was incredible. She asked me questions.
I've never been asked these kinds of questions.
I opened up.
I've never been so truthful.
I opened up, Derek. I told her everything.
I gave her my vulnerable side. I gave it all up to her. I think there's going to be a third date, and then he opens his computer.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but keep some dates open in March of next year.
She's the one. I've never been able to talk football like this on a second date.
You know, Derek, I've always thought that love is when the soul finds its counterpoint in another person's demographic breakdown of a Twitter account's following. And now I know better.
And Derek is the one who told him, see, I told you, man, got to put yourself out there. Get on the apps.
Take some chances.
What's
the other guy, the friend who encouraged him to go on the date, is the person I want to meet.
How'd it go?
What's the worst that could happen? She's just going to say no, and then you just go back in there, man. You got to take it out back. You can't hit a home run if you don't swing.
When Amin says might be fired, I want to let's do some punitive damages here and figure out this part, because Peter Thiel bankrupted Gawker because he objected to being outed, and then he funded Hulk Hogan's entire campaign because he was hell-bent on the revenge, the successful revenge of that's not ethical what you just did to me, reporting that outing me when I was not prepared for that. I don't know whether taping someone and costing them their job is rises to that level, but what is going to happen here in terms of damages to everybody involved? Like, can you fire somebody for something that was done this unethically?
I mean, I feel like we have contemplated such questions in our own industry before. People who have been taped, people who did not know they were being taped, people who said some things that they did not know they were being taped saying. The answer is because this is a business of reaction and not a business of principle, which is to say this is, working for a company in America. Absolutely, I can see him being fired, and I can see very little plausible defense being offered, because at a certain point, this is a public relations problem, and maybe you handle it more delicately. But I believe that as much as I would like to not give the scalp to a person who is again doing stuff as a total troll, unethical dirtbag, I can see this working out for him in very specific ways.
I think the bigger problem is for this, the VP of content, is can you continue to do your job? Let's forget about like the PR or whatever. Can you walk into the practice facility and have like a social media campaign where we ask the players, what's your favorite ice cream? And they'll be like, you're the MFer who thinks I'm a dumbass because I got hit in the head too many times.
The question I want to ask the two of you as we talk this story out on the air, okay? The shamed VP of content here, if everything Pablo is saying is so, is a victim here.
Yes.
Hard stop.
Yes.
Hard stop.
Correct.
And that's not how it's going to be treated. And it's going to keep escalating. And the context of this is not going to matter. The Commanders aren't going to, they're not going to say that. The Commanders are not going to come out and say he's a victim. And wouldn't you want your company to do that if you were a victim?
Yeah. No, I mean, look, the person that this VP of content needs to speak on his behalf to make this a story that Americans could wrap their minds around is Derek.
Pablo, what's on Pablo Torre Finds Out? What is it that you're shilling here as part of your 1-year anniversary? We are celebrating 20 years. We dwarf you with Stugotz around the Kansas City porta potties in terms of history, but you are fastly gaining on us in terms of listeners because your podcast is very popular.
That's right. The feeling you have on your heels, Dan, is the nipping. That PTFO is doing. And today I got a guest who held me to account for something that I said while substitute hosting your show, Dan, over the summer, which is that I believe the NFL has a jargon fetish. I believe that lots of people have no idea what's being said on 90% of NFL media at this point, and they're nodding along because things like, whatever, Spider 2Y Banana are repeated like incantations over and over again. And so I got Nate Tice, former quarterback, former NFL scout, host of a really good podcast himself, to explain to me what the everybody is saying and how it got to be this way. Because it didn't used to be this way. Now it is entirely this way. And I feel like a jock bullying nerds despite being a nerd bullied by jocks.
Pablo Torre finds out there are not many podcasts anywhere, non-athlete podcasts. He might be the only one that's like really broken out in this genre over the last 5 years. Non-athlete podcasts. I urge you to find it wherever it is you get your podcast. Thank you, Pablo, and happy anniversary.
Thank you, Dan, and you too.
The audience, I should tell you, okay, because we screwed this up yesterday, a lot of different ways, and I heard from corporate on this. I love getting those calls on the way to work.
The uniforms, they're in?
Not the uniforms. No,
damn it!
On our second day on Peacock, like this is a big deal, right? It's a big deal for a lot of different reasons. We're on in more places than we've ever been. And we're on it more times than we've ever been. And it's ubiquitous. Our show right now has arrived so that you don't have to, basically, at any time, video or audio. There are times in the schedule where you can't get us, but you can find us in a lot of places, more places than ever. And so I'm going to give you the rundown of all of those places and times right now.
Here we go.
Ubiquitous.
That's right. I got in trouble on the way in. I loved, leaving ESPN, founding my own company, and then getting in trouble on the way in because I didn't read the schedule right. That's a lot of fun.
Can I get the country of origin?
So we are on the DraftKings Network Monday to Friday from 11 to 2 Eastern. And you can catch us on Samsung TV Plus, the Roku channel, and Vizio Watch Free Plus, and many more. I don't know what any of those things are.
You say Roku the way I imagine Christopher Walken would.
I told you it's like a dish that I would order in
Roku,
a Korean restaurant. That's right. To see all the places you can watch the show on DraftKings Network, go to DraftKingsNetwork.com. Now, you can also find the show on Peacock and the NBC Sports Fast channel Monday to Friday, from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern, and on YouTube, and on Max. And also, for podcasts, we're on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and you can get us Sirius XM Channel 85. We're back on the radio, also from 12 to 3 Eastern.
Simple.
Simpler than how we did it yesterday. Not yet simple, because I don't know what some of those things are. We are on in some places.
No one does, Dan.
Is that true?
You don't know Roku? Roku City? They have a Major League Baseball game every week that I occasionally gamble on.
Roku.
Now imagine you saying that, but in a Hess uniform.
Oh, Dad, we would be so fresh.
And then him in a fighter pilot outfit.
Yep. And I have my name on it right here.
Like a Dragon Ball Z character.
Make it sound like Sudoku.
Ubiquitous.
Roku. We're on Roku as well. But I was supposed to do it because Dan Patrick is a big lead-in. It's a giant lead-in. Yes. The NBC in general, their channels have more than 4 million people. And so I fouled all of this up yesterday in a way that disrespected Peacock, disrespected Dan Patrick, disrespected our audience.
But just a question. The message from corporate was about us being confusing, not about us making cock jokes for the entire day.
That is correct. Segment. I was surprised that the call, that part was surprising to me, that's how that went. I thought I was going to get the call for the second thing the moment, because Stugotz was strategic about this. He didn't make the joke until the moment he was off the air with Dan Patrick. And then all of a sudden we were saying to everybody, we're on cock minus.
Yeah. Another one that I actually found out by perusing, Pluto TV is like a big deal. NBC Sports has a fast channel on Pluto TV, so their show is also now on Pluto.
Nice. I like Pluto TV.
Everywhere, including Pluto.
My life as I know it is about to drastically change forever. And the reason I say that, as many of you know, I'm going to be a father coming up in December to a baby girl, and it's crazy, and I can't believe it. And a lot of my life is going to change, but there's one thing in my life that's going to be constant. And since 1975, this original light beer has been a constant, a mainstay for the entire planet. and it's going to continue to be a mainstay for me. It's Miller Lite. They keep it simple. Undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. It's a light beer that actually tastes like beer. You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling, and it tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/Dan, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. I will when my daughter's born with a tall, cold glass of Miller Lite. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
On a couple of serious subjects that I wanted to hit here before we get back to frolicking about football. One, another school shooting, this one in Georgia, so repetitive and so frustrating and so heartbreaking that we're the only country in the world that can't get a grip on this problem and somehow doesn't seem to care about getting a grip on the problem, because every time this happens, it's perpetual outrage and then no one is summoned to do anything about it. And I just don't know if you're not motivated by dead children or young life lost. I don't know what will motivate you to change something about guns in this country, that we have a problem that no other country has, that we can't protect our most vulnerable in schools. And any of you listening to this who have children, I know that you are scared of the idea that you can send your child off to school, put him in the care of others, which can be a very scary thing when you are a parent, and your child might not come home because he or she is shot to death in school where they should be safe. This is the only country that this happens with this frequency, and it is so numbing that it happens so often that you will not hear about it in a lot of places today, because we have just gotten sort of used to the numbing lack of humanity in dead children. Yeah, we'll just keep everything the way it is. Yeah, we won't do anything about that. It'll just keep happening. And then Dan will come on and say the same thing that he always says, and nobody wants to hear it. Hey, football, football, football. The other thing that I'm always talking about around here that has, I've been scared lately, just generally scared in a way that has never happened in my life before. Mike Ryan has told you that since having a child, he is now, everywhere he goes out in public, he's checking for exit ramps. He's checking as soon as he gets somewhere with his child, how do I get out of here in public if something happens? Like, it's just a way of living that I guess parents often, all of a sudden, come home from the hospital without a handbook and the very great fear of, wait a minute, this is all my responsibility. How do I make sure nothing happens to this thing that will need me for years to stay alive? How do I do that? The idea that your life would change so much upon having a child that you wouldn't feel safe in America because there are guns everywhere, that's one kind of fear. The other kind of fear I'm always talking about around here is climate change that continues to devour our country and other countries that are poorer countries that you can get video whenever you want of just floods washing homes away. If they were your cars, your children, if they were your homes, you would all feel the pain and the inconvenience of this. But until it arrives on your doorstep, we will continue to do some nothing in order to not prevent any of it. And what I was encouraged by, where all my fears reside, is that there hasn't been a named storm in South Florida. There hasn't been a named storm for a hurricane in the last 3 weeks during hurricane season. And that is the biggest amount of time that we have gone without a named storm in hurricane season in 56 years. Like, it's been more than half a century. The forecasters, because they don't know, there's a new normal with the weather. They don't actually know how big and bad these things are going to get with the bathtubs that the oceans are, because the hot water is going to make them crazy. And so they predicted that this was going to be the worst storm season, that it was going to be like 13 or 14 named storms. And now, so far through the last 3 weeks during hurricane season, and this week is the worst week for, these 10 days are supposed to be the worst. None in 56 years. So play our song right now. Play our song here to celebrate a small 3-week victory.
Die. We're all
not
gonna die. not
gonna die. We're all
not
gonna die. There's a hurricane in my earthquake, and we're all wondering why. Let's turn on the news and find out how we're
not
gonna die.
Excellent work, Roy.
God bless El Nino, which is Spanish for the Nino. And a Saharan dust storm that also might have affected this, but also the weather is pretty unpredictable. And right now, even though we're in the heart of hurricane season, there's nothing developing in the tropics or the Atlantic, and a real outlier of a year that won't at all be politicized.
There is something developing that's supposed to come near Cuba in about a week, but it will be a named
in
storm.
Coral Gables, that's for damn sure.
We'll get to that in a second.
I'm saying a week. Dan, who knows if we're going to be alive in a week? We're going to worry about
Well,
a week.
thank you, Amin, because you're from Arizona, and I wanted to ask you about this. The temperature in Phoenix will reach 100 degrees today for the 101st day in a row. So 400 people are suspected to have died of heat-related causes this year alone in Maricopa County, and the county uses 2 billion gallons of water a day. That's more than twice as much as New York City. Phoenix has been called, quote, the world's least sustainable city. It may legitimately fall due to climate change. You live there. Are you going to die?
Wait, hold on. I thought you guys had the title of the city that's going to collapse soonest.
Yeah.
Or what is this?
What county was this?
Maricopa County.
Oh, can't trust anything from there. IDs, please.
I mean, we're going to be the city that's going to collapse because of water. You guys are going to collapse without water.
Well, yeah.
Two forms of identification. It's not that hard. It's paper. Present it. Or plastic.
It's a big problem. We're in a drought. We are constantly in a drought. Our water comes from the Colorado River and these massive man-made lakes that are reserves, Lake Roosevelt, Lake Powell, Lake et cetera, all these lakes, and their levels have dropped precipitously, and no one knows what's going to happen. Dan, I mean, it's one of those things where here you guys are suffering because the storms and the liability therein of building housing or building a city on the coast of a place that wasn't supposed to be.
And also putting down so much development and asphalt that ground can't absorb anything because Florida was never supposed to be built on this way.
Did someone say asphalt? Someone did say asphalt. You know, it's Thursday, which means we're actually closer to the next NASCAR race. Wow. And yet on this show, a show that celebrated 20 years as an industry leader in sport, you guys didn't talk about the single greatest championship performance in the history of sport. Willis Reed is a name that many people my age know just because of old fogies like you telling me about how brave he was to come out there on a knee and get 4 points and 3 boards. Let me tell you something. Somebody won a championship the other day that left Michael Jordan speechless because of the bravery of this man's performance, and you guys had nothing to say about it.
There was a combined no-hitter last night. We didn't have anything to say about that either.
Well, you know what? Maybe I would have said something about it if that pitcher or pitchers, by the way, doesn't count. Wow. If those pitchers were covered in their own and puke, maybe you would have talked about it. If Willis Reed came out and puking all over himself, I'm sure that would also be part of the legend.
That's Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce.
Yeah, okay.
Jinx.
But Michael Jordan, famous for the flu game, sat back in awe of his driver, Tyler Reddick, who won the regular season NASCAR points race by a single point. Why? Because he stayed in a race in which his words, let's play the video for the people.
I'm just curious for CJ's feedback here. Are you worried about throwing up or no, just stomach stuff? Yeah, I'm throwing up. Being myself, all of it. All right, so it's both. We got you covered. Pills, you'll chew. Those are tops. The rest of them you swallow with water. Yeah. 2 to chew, 3 to swallow. Grab the pills are too small. Dropped all of them. I got the Toms, but yeah, I got the small one, the 2 medium-sized pills. They just, I couldn't get them out of the damn bag.
That's right. The pills that were supposed to help him, he spilled all over. covered floor.
Hate when that happens in the car. You're like reaching down in between like the cracks. You're like, oh, I can't get it.
NASCARs
Which
are like
cracks?
about 135 degrees inside of it. It's warmer than Phoenix inside these NASCARs. That dude is in a tracksuit, baking in his own and puke. Have you ever had to drive and go to the bathroom at the exact same time?
I gotta pee right now.
Yeah, it's not easy. This dude did it for an entire race and doesn't get the attention of industry leaders in sport. What are we doing here?
Dude, I almost peed myself on a ride from New York to Bristol. Like, I needed to stop, and there were no exits. I finally just pulled off, like, to the side of the road because it was so trafficky. Like, it was back, everything was, backed up, so I had to pull off the side of the road, got out right there in the little middle of the intersection, let it loose.
So he vomited with his helmet on.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And he's with his tracksuit on.
So I had to get inside the car.
It leaked out through the legs, right?
It leaked out through the legs.
Yeah, it's diarrhea.
Ugh.
I always ask, almost every interview we've ever done with a driver, I always ask, do you ever pee yourself or in the suit? And the answer is always no. I can control it. So I don't know what was going on here.
Well, you do, because Tyler Reddick said it. He was puking himself. And while that story, I'm sorry you had to go through that on your drive there. Let me ask you a question. Was Kyle Larson behind you, chasing you for the NASCAR points lead?
No, he wasn't.
No, I'm sure that's a different amount of pressure. One that should be celebrated. What I'm saying is replace the Willis Reed example because it's dated. Every time we have someone powering through some physical adversity, we channel Willis Reed because he had 4 points and 3 boards. What you need to channel, henceforth, is Tyler Reddick winning the NASCAR regular season points race whilst shitting and puking all over himself.
Forget Willis Reed. He's Larry Izzo.
That's a good inside reference there. Larry Izzo, for those of you who do not know, Bill Belichick is now on Instagram, so maybe he'll share some of these stories with you. The legend has it, and it's been confirmed, that Larry Izzo, special team champion for the Patriots, once, without anyone noticing, was it in a bucket or a helmet on the sideline? On the sideline of an NFL game before there were tents on the sideline. So he was able to do it surreptitiously, and Belichick gave him a game ball for doing that because he in a bucket on the sideline.
Now tape that bucket around his hips and have him make tackles. And maybe, just maybe, Larry Izzo belongs in the same conversation as Tyler Reddick, one of the greatest achievements in the history of sport.
Mike, I don't want to be a contrarian here, but I kind of feel like, while uncomfortable, I think doing your job after yourself is not that hard. I really don't think it's that hard. It's disgusting, but it's not hard. It would not affect my performance.
He's sitting. That was like at the beginning of the race.
I know.
This is like a 3.5 hour race. It was a Southern 500. He is sitting in his own and puke, mind you, spilling pills all over the floor, feeling bad the entire time. And the weirdest thing about all of this is he hopped out of the car straight into photo ops with Michael Jordan and his teammates and Denny Hamlin.
Oh, the smell. You haven't thought of the smell.
That's the thing. He's sitting by himself in his own car. Go ahead and yourself.
Everyone likes their own brand.
Not like that.
You're running.
Not like that. That's unacceptable.
Why? This is, I mean, given the toilet humor over the course of our 20 years together, you'd think that you'd scream this story from the mountaintops. What more does Tyler Reddick have to do to get your attention? I'm curious.
He's got my respect.
We would all agree, though, you'd rather have your own than someone else's.
Of course.
Okay,
yes,
then. So that's what I'm saying. It's not like it's bad. I'm with you.
That's not what you were saying. That's not what you were saying. That's clearly not what you're saying.
But it's also
when you're in the toilet, when you're in the bathroom and you're cooking, you're like, oh, this is gross.
It is.
You're just sit,
sometimes.
No, you just sit. You might smell. You might catch a whiff and go, whoa, this one's pungent today. But you're not like, oh, this is bad. You're just like, it's like a net neutral. It's not. You're not loving the smell, but you're not like grossed out by it.
Mike yesterday in the chat said exactly that.
Really? You're going to give some context in the chat?
Well, we're trying to make it seem lively in the chat.
Well, you have to be descriptive. Otherwise, like, you can mail one in with a poop emoji. That
Why would you assume that the new people listening on Peacock would know what you're talking about when you say in the chat?
We have a group chat that's dedicated to our BMs.
Yeah, it's called the chat, and it's contracted to
There is a difference between sitting on the toilet and being in a bathroom that smells bad and sitting in your own actual
Thank you. This guy gets it.
It feels awful.
I'm with you. Like if you're on the, it's on the toilet.
You
you're
get
like,
rashes. You get rashes. If you sit in long enough, you're going to start getting rashes. Tyler Reddick is a hero, a titan.
It is unpleasant, and something that Roy brought up the other day, and I think it's in the realm of, we do more toilet humor and bathroom conversation than I would like, but occasionally I actually learn something that I did not know. One of the times that this happened is when we were talking about how people wipe, and whether you wipe sitting down or standing up as a man. And the new people listening on Peacock right now may never have considered this, and they are learning for the first time that there are either sitting wipers or standing wipers. Mm-hmm. Roy said something the other day that I did not know and no one taught me, which is that he flushes the toilet with the toilet seat down because toilet particles will get into your home in a way that is unpleasant, and I did not have the knowledge to know that I should be flushing my toilet with the seat down. So I want to ask the question via poll at Le Batard Show. Do you close the lid before you flush the toilet in your home, yes or no?
That's exactly right, Dan, because all those water molecules are going all over the place on your toothbrush.
Oh, nonsense.
And on your ass when you're doing courtesy
You got to eat a peck of dirt before you die. If I don't see it, it doesn't matter.
We have had a discrepancy between Roy and Chris on general hygiene. I will tell you that Chris doesn't wash ever below his knees.
Chris and Jason Kelsey.
It's why you shouldn't use hand dryers in the bathroom because it's all caked up poop inside there, just warming up, festering as if you were in Tyler Reddick's tracksuit.
Yeah, who knows when they change that?
They're living scared.
I'm telling you right now, it's been years since I've used a hand dryer. Like if they don't have paper towels, guess what? Wet hands when I leave the bathroom.
Roy, next time Roy goes poop in our studio, I want you to bring me in after, and I'll just like you flush it. I'll just start going.
No, that's the other thing.
I'll walk in that bathroom right after he flushes, and I will start eating air.
No, that's the other thing. I don't poop in public places.
Don't test me.
Save
I'll
that
do
for
it.
the house.
Please help me here. You guys are surprised. Did you know this? Did you know that you're supposed to put the toilet seat down when you flush? No one taught me this. I learned it in my 50s. What are you laughing about?
I mean, how much would I have to pay to eat my air after I flush?
Hey, yo.
He said that, but he didn't say that. Yeah. He stumbled because he started to say, "You wouldn't eat my poop. You wouldn't eat my air."
Let me get this right. A teenager sees a whale breach and makes a U-turn and is celebrated by this show as a conquering hero. But this show is too elitist to give Tyler Reddick his flowers. You have to wait till I have to put on this ridiculous Richard Gearhead hat so I can force the issue. This is usually the type of story that is right up your alley. And yet you don't want to celebrate this, man. I dare you to tell me something more impressive in athletics in terms of overcoming something to win a championship. I'm all ears.
I've got to think about it for a second because certainly I will come up with something. But what I really liked about the audio we played there is it had a granular audio quality that was lovely, and I was wondering, because there was some sound from this weekend that we did not get to. The Knoxville radio call, Chris, that we've been talking about this week, does it have I've not heard it. You were telling me about it. So what are the particulars of how this sounds before I play it? What needs to be known about the radio call in Knoxville in terms of ambient sound when the ambient sound is your wife nagging at you because she doesn't actually care that you're doing a broadcast at the moment? I feel like we've all been here where the significant other is saying to you, hey, this sports thing you take so seriously, can you please put it a few notches down on your priority list? There are other things happening around here that matter in our lives.
A lot of people like the new work from home. I'm working from home these days. It doesn't always benefit you when you're in a little spat with your wife and she might interrupt your radio show.
They're Florida recruits. These guys are good.
That's why I think they'd pull the trigger pretty quickly on getting rid of Billy.
With get off the damn sports radio. It doesn't matter to your family. It's a loser situation. My dad needs your help. Ryan?
Cosmo Chris.
I'm so done with you. I know you don't care. I'll take your $2.5 million.
Oh, that's a first.
You cut off the best part where he responds by saying, it really isn't.
Let me hear, as the fire alarm goes off here, let me hear again, what is the context? What is he talking about on the front end? He's just doing a regular sports radio show with his partner about Tennessee football?
Yeah, Tennessee football, probably reacting to the damn good quarterback they got over there. I don't exactly know the context. We're going to have to listen to this.
They're Florida recruits. These guys are good.
That's why I think they'd pull the trigger pretty quickly on getting rid of Billy.
With who? Get off the damn sports radio. It doesn't matter to your family. It's a loser situation. My dad needs your help. Ryan?
Cosmo Chris.
So done with you. I know you don't want to hear. I'll take your $2.5 million.
Well, that's a first.
They're talking about Billy Napier at the start of it because they're like, I don't know if they're going to keep Billy, so I can only assume that's the Florida coach.
Why wouldn't they keep Billy? What happened?
Well, we'll talk about that in a second because I do want to talk about something revolving around the Hurricanes. And the bucket of death is coming up here in a second. But as it relates to Billy Napier, can you guys find for me whether there has been any confirmation about whether or not Billy Napier was arguing and had words, as was reported, with Albert the Alligator, their mascot? Like, you guys don't do any reporting around here. You don't do any production work. When I thought the Gator game couldn't get any worse for the Gators because that was an important game for them to start their season, and Billy Napier is drowning, and he struggles with water bottles. Billy Napier, I saw reported that he had words with Albert the Alligator because he was pissed off. And we all know that the coach of a losing football team who loses like that isn't interested in what the mascot's got going on. So I want to believe that story, but that story seems like it wouldn't be believable, even though I gave the credit to whoever it was, Nathan the Conqueror, some blue check on Twitter. And I don't know if it's true or not.
The conquering hero,
If it had a blue check, you're good. It's great. No, that's how you know if something's true or not on that website.
Sources told him that Billy Napier and the guy in the Albert the Alligator costume exchanged words in the tunnels and had to be separated. Things go from bad to worse in Gainesville.
There was a Sugar Bowl in which Miami played Florida. Miami beat them up pretty good. And Sebastian the Ibis came out after Hurricanes touchdown and embraced Miami players. Sebastian the Ibis got a misconduct and a 15-yard penalty. And Butch Davis was so pissed off despite crushing Florida because Sebastian made it about him and gave his team a penalty.
Sebastian was also arrested at Florida State one time, put in handcuffs in the mascot costume for getting in the way of things.
No way.
Yes, that's a thing that happened. They'll get the photo for us. Yes, they'll get the photo for us.
Mugshot too with the
I saw somebody put that on their thigh as a tattoo. Sebastian getting arrested.
Mike,
I need to put next to my Lee Corso fan fiction on my leg.
The thing that I wanted to ask you about the Miami Hurricanes, you know this because you're immersed in the NIL stuff, but I hadn't seen a number put on what it is the University of Miami is paying for its team, and I saw it reported that it's $15 million.
Yeah, whoever did that must have listened to Pablo Torre Finds Out a couple of weeks ago when I also said it's north of that.
So $15 million makes it, though, the thing that that detail was less interesting to me than it's one of the largest payrolls that there is anywhere in the sport. What are you making noises about?
Well, it's just... Number one, it's north of that.
That's from Josh Newberg. The reporting is from Josh Newberg, not Mike Ryan.
Okay, but he just regurgitated something that I said earlier. And the thing is, I said it was north of 15 because doesn't do us any good to just put the number out there. I don't need everybody in our business. And I think I think the best collectives don't necessarily put that information out there, especially right now as the market is kind of trying to settle a little bit. But there are schools that spend more than the University of Miami. There might be schools in this state that spend more than Miami. If it were just as easy if it were about just spending resources on talent acquisition, Florida would not be trying to fire its head coach right now. There's more that goes into it.
How many cops does it take to arrest a mascot? There's like 4 of them there. And by the way, he looks pissed. He looks really
Sebastian the Ibis looks pissed. Yeah. He's getting roughhoused.
It's the eyebrows.
Yeah, the eyebrows.
It is the eyebrows. You're right. That is accurate. That is good journalism by you, Tony. The eyebrows make Sebastian the Ibis look pissed. while he's getting arrested. That's exactly right. Mike, is there any particular reason you're hissing at me because I've credited the reporting to Josh Newberg and I didn't properly give you credit on Pablo Torre Finds Out?
It was weird to see that circulate when the entire episode was about NIL and it was out there. But yeah, it was. He might have just listened to Pablo Torre Finds Out to find out that number, and also it's north of that.
You seem bitter. You seem defensive.
It's just an odd thing. And people are using it like, wow, can you believe how much they're spending without knowing any damn thing about what other people are spending? Yeah, it sounds like a lot until you realize what Oregon and Ohio State are spending, I guess.
We tried to audition a new football friend next. This is a totally weird thing that we're doing right now in that I am auditioning Annie to be our football friend, to be the show's.
Really?
Yes.
A football friend.
I want to see. Well, I want to. I don't know whether she wants
I
to
mean,
be.
the pressure's on now. Jeez.
Yes. Because Annie Agar is someone, Stugotz, and I love how much of a democracy and a meritocracy the content business has become, where Rob Delaney becomes a famous comedian because he's good at making content on Twitter, and Annie's great at making her way into the football space in a totally new way that I haven't seen a whole lot of. I don't think I have this wrong, and she seemed from afar like someone I'd like as a football friend. And I don't know whether she wants to be my football friend. I don't know whether she wants to be our football friend or not.
Because you can have a football friend who is not your friend in everyday life, just a football friend.
Well, she'd be a great football friend. Look.
But a bad friend.
Let's be clear on this. I'm not auditioning to be her friend. Right. No, it's not. That'll come later. Maybe. I'm auditioning her to be just the show's football friend. Is that something that you're willing to partake in, Annie?
The fact that you took you being my friend off the table, absolutely. Now I feel a bit safer about it.
So I should tell the audience she's an NFL correspondent at Stadium Network. She's the host of the new Wondery podcast, The Offensive Line, and that podcast took off. I think it's more popular than Bill Barnwell's show. I think it's more popular than Belichick. I think it's the most popular thing that there has been in the history of new sports football podcast brought to us by our new football friend.
I love it.
Can you tell us how this all came to be? Can you tell us, because we want to talk about football in general, but your path seems to have been a really unique one.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this started back during COVID. I was in my childhood bedroom. I moved back with my parents. It was not a good move. I do not recommend it. Great people, but you don't want to live with them again. So I'd moved back into my childhood bedroom and thought, I worked in local news at the time, wasn't doing anything. Football had stopped, sports had stopped, and I had just gone on TikTok, and I had the idea to do this Big Ten meeting as if they were on a Zoom call trying to get their season going again. And it was kind of this comedic relief during a really depressing time, and it took off. It had 3 million views overnight, and I thought, okay, this is something people want right now. And it led to doing these weekly NFL meeting videos that I do to recap kind of the games and what happened, all while roasting players pretty relentlessly. So, and that led to the podcast. So this podcast hopefully will kind of elaborate on what I talk about in the videos, and it's more of a conversation with my followers and my fans and stuff like that. So it's called The Offensive Line because I'm known to say an offensive thing or two. So it's been a good time so far.
Can you tell us what you are most excited about as we get our first Sunday on Thursday? As today is the day.
On Thursday, Sundays are back.
That's right. Today, Sundays are back because today is Thursday, and that is why Sundays are back on Thursdays. What are you most excited about?
We are so back. You know what? I felt like I had to be productive every Sunday in the off season, and this might be a thing for football fans because when Sundays come back and football is back, we do nothing. And I am so ready to absolutely do nothing but watch 7 hours of commercial-free football every Sunday. I go to church earlier. I might be even more productive on NFL Sundays because I'm trying to get everything done in the morning so I can just sit on my couch and do absolutely nothing, and I cannot wait for it.
But that's a broad excitement.
Oh, true.
That is.
You want a specific game?
She's a football friend. I mean,
she's got the joke. She's got the joke. Jess has the joke. Jess, make the joke.
What are you? I don't know what you're talking about.
God damn.
Bane, please make the joke.
He is a broad.
It's not a broad.
Are we friends yet, Annie, or still have some work to do here?
Oh, I love it. I just have to throw out a that's what she said, and then we'll be great.
You didn't give me a specific answer to what you're interested in. It's just general enthusiasm.
Well, the issue is my excitement starts Friday night, not quite Sunday, because as you guys might know, I am a diehard Packers fan, and I will not have an enjoyable Sunday if Green Bay does not win this game in Brazil on Friday night. So I will just start there. That is where the excitement will come from. I'm going to get drunk Friday night, either because it's a good game or because we just lost to Philadelphia to start out the season. It will be a very bad night for me.
How do you feel about your first game for your team, first game of the year being on a Friday night? Because for me, I like my games Sunday, 1 o'clock. The Jets play Monday night. I don't want to wait around. I want to be part of the Sunday action. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's weird, too, because it's when there's a football game happening. I don't know if you guys remember we had that weird Wednesday game during COVID.
Yeah.
If it's not, it's like a action game. It doesn't feel right if it's on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday. I can't prepare properly. I'm not ready. I'm not at the hype level of a Sunday. We've watched college football all day Saturday. I have time to prepare for the Sunday games. I'm a little stressed, if you can't tell. I'm probably going to lose sleep over this. But I think it'll be good. It'll be a good way to kick it off. Brazil's going to be electric, I think. So, yeah, as long as the Packers can do well, man. There's a lot riding on this. There's a lot.
Before getting to the professional football stuff, on college football, what is it that you like? If I said to you, Annie, I got at the end of Saturday night, at midnight Saturday, I'm going to give you a microphone. What were the best and most interesting things you saw today? What were the things that you would want to talk about immediately? What are those things?
Definitely would not be Florida State, because I don't even know that was football at that point. I know you guys were talking about LSU and Brian Kelly. Fun fact, Brian Kelly coached at my college. I went to Grand Valley. And I would consider him, I've interviewed him a couple times. So I would say that I knew him pretty well. Didn't know where the accent came from, because, man, let me tell you, in West Michigan, that was not the accent that we had over here. So he's just he's a chameleon. He adapts to his environment. As far as, there's certain teams that I love. I'm an Ohio State fan, too, which is very weird being in Michigan. So the Big Ten is, and then you guys saw, maybe I put out a video this past week about the Big Ten. The Big Ten is like a religion over here. That's all we watch. So now that we got Oregon in there, Washington, these new teams from the Pac-12, it's going to be interesting. And I think I would mostly focus on what happened in the Big Ten, just because that's my wheelhouse. But the games were, every Big Ten team won this week except for, I think it was Minnesota, which is pretty sad for them. But I stick to the Big Ten, and that's kind of that's what we watch around here.
As a Packer fan, your watching of Jordan Love the last 8 games, I don't know whether you can do this without bias, but in talking to Mina Kimes and an assortment of other people, all of them are certain that Jordan Love is going to be extraordinary, that it's not that the contract he just got will soon look underpaid, because they believe, the people who are watching Jordan Love believe absolutely, they've got the next great thing at quarterback. What's the argument against that?
Oh, don't make me do this. This is, I can only talk him up. I physically can only talk him up. The issue that I
asked you to be not biased, and we're not going to be able to be
biased aside.
We're not.
Okay, yeah. all bias aside. All bias aside. I don't even know what negative to say. I just think Jordan Love's ceiling is so high. If he regresses, it could be because maybe teams figure him out a little bit. But then I also think, we don't have a wide receiver 1, because he doesn't throw to your best receiver. He throws to whatever receiver is available. I think we're going to utilize him a little bit more in the run game, and that might concern me a little bit, because there's only 3 plays last year of him getting outside the pocket, of him using his legs, and I think he can. And we have a great backfield now with Josh Jacobs too. So maybe he doesn't have to use his legs. All this to say, I really try to find no bias in this. I'm trying to find negative things about Jordan Love, and dare I say there might not be any.
Oh, for the love of God.
Well, the first 8 games last year.
Annie, we cannot be.
She tried,
Annie, no, we can't be.
Daniel Jones got paid on less talent. Daniel Jones got paid on less.
We can't
Jordan
be.
Love, just because he had half a season. I don't know.
Billy, we can't be football friends.
She tried
with this
to find the
person.
negative. She just can't.
She tried.
She can't have more than trying.
She gets how to play the game.
She can't be a football
She put her biases
friend.
aside.
All bias aside, he's perfect and is the best.
What if we ask you to add the biases? Don't put them aside. Incorporate the biases. Now give us your Jordan Love take.
No, I got
Jordan
it
Love
already.
will be MVP this year. The Packers are winning a Super Bowl.
Wow.
All right.
At plus 1,400, Jordan Love, I've already made the future bet. He's going to win MVP. All bias aside. All bias aside.
All right. So all bias aside, how does Packer fan Annie Agar really want Aaron Rodgers to do this season?
This is a tough one. You know, I want him to do well. I think he might win comeback player of the year. I want him to do well only because the Jets team is so he's never played, and this is coming from a Packers fan, he's never played on a team with this good of defense. And they just talked about it the other day. He's 81-10 when the defense holds the opponents to 20 points or less. I think the Jets averaged 20 points. Their opponents averaged 20 points per game last season. This Jets team just deserves more. I mean, they're a great. Breece Hall had a great season last year as well. And if Aaron was healthy, I just want to see what would have happened. So it lasts longer than 4 plays this season. Win comeback player of the year. Make the playoffs. I don't think you'll win. You know, you're not going to win a Super Bowl because there's a guy that exists that's named Pat Mahomes out there. But yeah, I want them to do well. I have no ill will against Aaron Rodgers. Probably because I want him on my podcast at some point. The second he's off the podcast, I'll say anything you guys want about him.
Okay, so no bias aside.
Now you're my friend. Now you're my friend.
Bias aside.
You will be my football friend.
That's ridiculous to say. I'm not going to be biased. I'm just going to say the things that get him on my podcast.
That's how you do it.
Hey, I'm working this system.
I think, Stugotz, and I don't know if I'm alone on this, because I really do think that the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, are going to challenge Buffalo and Miami for the top of that division in a way that makes a conversation around that Jets team be different than any conversation we've heard, at least in part because the centerpiece of everything is really controversial. And I think if he's healthy, he's going to make them great.
Dan, I'm going to say something. Annie, I'm glad you're here when I said it, because in 20 years I have never said what I'm about to say. The Jets are making it to the Super Bowl.
You said
what?
You said it last year. He said it. You did say it last year, and then he was injured after 4 plays.
The Jets are winning the Super Bowl.
You did say it last year.
I did not say that last year.
You just upgraded it now because you realized you did say they were making the Super Bowl last year.
I mean,
you did say it.
You're always fact-checking me.
Yes, and it's impossible. It's like Trump. I can't keep up with you. Like there's so many lack of facts that I can't keep up.
Last year was last year. This year is this year. And this year I am telling you, the Jets not only making it to the Super Bowl, they're winning the whole thing. How about that? Yes.
He's fact-checking you, and you're fact-checking him.
Hey!
That's what will work 20 years.
He's about to kick your ass.
Out? I'll go.
Annie, thank you for being on with us. I don't know if we're friends. I don't know if you want to be friends with this dysfunctional of family, but I would tell the people again, she's an NFL correspondent at Stadium Network. She's the host of the new Wondery podcast, The Offensive Line, and her path is super interesting because there are not a lot of people. There's so many, Stugotz, people trying to make their way into the football space.
Yep.
The idea that you would earn it sort of on your own is unusual because the internet has decided, yeah, we like this person. I still haven't decided that whether she can be our football friend or not. Thank you, Annie. Thank you for being on with us.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I'll remember that Jets prediction.
Okay, thank you.
No. 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 No.
We are back.
I hate this thing. Come on.
That's right. It's the bucket of death, and it's time to go to it.
It's so cold.
If you're new around here, we pick a bucket. All the NFL teams are in there. There's a
Pick
few
a helmet out of the bucket.
There's a few random
We
helmets
don't
also
pick
in there.
a bucket, Chris.
We pick a helmet out of the bucket. All right. Either way, we're doing it, and there's bad shit in there.
Why
okay?
is the Reaper so short? Yeah. The Reaper's supposed to tower over people with a sickle.
Shrank in the wash, Dano. Doing the dryer. That's what happens.
Tony's going first. I really hate this thing. And Mike thinks I like it because I like to dress in costumes.
You do.
Oh, you like when other people dress in costumes.
So the people that are new, you get 2 chances to pick a helmet. You can pick which one you want. That's your team for the weekend. If they lose, you have to do an embarrassing punishment the following week. There are also random helmets also in there, you know, the Big Apple where you have to pick a New York team. We'll cross those bridges when we get there.
What the hell's this thing?
That's the Wizard of football.
Why is there a wizard in here?
I like to dress things up, Dano. And last year we had the Reaper, so now what could we add? We're adding the Wizard.
It's an extra wrinkle here, Dan. All right. I'm going to the bucket. Here we go. First pull of the NFL season. God, it feels good to have my hand in this
I don't
bucket.
understand why there's a wizard in
Just
here.
pretend it's not there. All right. First pick, the Las Vegas Raiders.
You don't want that. I don't care who they're playing.
Van Goat, though.
Raiders are at the Chargers. They're a 3-point dog at the Chargers.
Chargers got a lot of stuff to figure out. We don't know. Justin Herbert said he didn't have plantar
Minshew?
fasciitis.
You want Minshew?
I didn't say I wanted Minshew. I'm just saying they've, I'm going to put it back.
All right, you're going to put it back. And that's the last time he gets to put it back. The next one is automatic, and we've already gotten to the dropping of things. Watch him for cheating, Mike.
No.
Mike, there were a lot of cheaters
Mike?
last year.
Mike Ryan.
No, Mike Ryan is who he's talking to.
What do you mean? You call the Reaper Mike?
No,
That's
you
his
called
work
it.
name?
I don't know what you
no,
called
I called Mike.
Oh,
the guy
God, I
next
think
to
I have
Mike.
a worse pick. The Giants.
Oh,
God.
All right, so the Giants are where? The Giants.
They're at home
by
against
New
the
York.
Vikings, and they are +2 at home against the Vikings.
They're a 2-point dog at home.
Hey, come on, Daniel Jones for the beard.
I like the idea of calling the Reaper just Mike, as if he's a work pal. Our pal, Mike Reaper. I still don't understand why there's a wizard in here.
The wizard seems to be lost.
I don't understand. Well, why is there
It's like
the
Trey
Reaper's
Wingo.
not menacing? I don't understand. All right, Mike, you pick from the bucket.
All right, first pick. San Francisco 49ers, I'll keep it Monday Night Football against the Jets.
All right, that is good. That is a 4.5-point favorite. The 49ers are against the Jets.
Last we saw Aaron Rodgers actually throwing the ball, he was trying to throw to a double-covered Devontae Adams with Alan Lazard wide open underneath, coming off of his worst season as a starter in Green Bay. Been a while since we've seen him be a good quarterback. I think they can still be a good team if he's a different quarterback, but let's not pretend he's something
think
that
they're
he's not.
going to be a good football team this year. I really do. I think they're going to win more than 10 games. Roy, go ahead.
I have the Indianapolis Colts.
They're at home against the Texans +3.
No. I'm going to put this back and get a new one.
Why not? Anthony Richardson has started 17 games since high school.
He's for sure starting this game.
Thank you for your service.
Okay, so you got to
Ooh,
choose.
Army's in town. They're playing FAU.
We'll circle back to Roy on which one he's choosing.
Here we go with the messiness again. By the way, we are not doing this year with everyone who's not here. So this isn't going to be as messy as it's been in years past where we're picking for everybody. It's just going to be the people who are here. Chris, go ahead.
All right, love a good rummage. All right, here we go. I'm going to go with this one. No, I want this one. All right,
I don't understand why there's a wizard in here.
The Texans. So anti-Roy. I'll go with the Texans on the road at Colts. I'll keep that.
All right, so the Texans are a 3-point favorite at home or on the road against the Colts.
Yep.
Is anyone going to explain to me why there's a wizard in here?
No, Dan, but I've got a top 5 wizards for you list.
Oh, wow. Okay, a little surprise in the middle of things. We'll get back to it. We'll end the segment with that little bonus. I'm going to pick first, if you don't mind, while you prepare. I've got the Panthers. I'll go ahead and put that right back.
Do you want to know?
No.
The Wizards helping you here with a little
Thank
They're
you,
at the
Wizard.
Saints.
St. Rooney's.
I've got the Steelers. The
right.
Steelers are at the Falcons. The Steelers are a 3.5-point dog.
You're keeping it.
Okay.
You lateral moves, same spread for both. 3.5-point dogs and domes. One's against Kirk Cousins, the other one's against Derek Carr.
The Browns or the Reds? What is this?
Those are the Browns.
The Browns are hosting the Dallas
Not
Cowboys.
very brown.
That is Tom Brady's first broadcast.
The Browns are a 2.5-point favorite at home against the Cowboys. 2.5-point favorite.
Throwing it back.
Our friend
You don't
Andrew
want that?
Siciliano, now named play-by-play voice of the Cleveland Browns.
I think I could do better. The Wizard of Oz.
That means you have to pick a lion, tigers, or bear in college or football.
The Lions are a 4-point favorite at home against the Rams. The Bears are a 3.5-point favorite at home against the Titans. What are the Tigers?
Bengals are 8.5-point favorites against the New England Patriots, who are terrible.
And you have in college, you have the rare Cal Bears at Auburn Tigers.
He's going with Bengals.
I'm going to Bengals.
In the NFL against the Patriots.
Yeah, and because I picked the Wizard of Oz helmet, I've got your top 5 wizards here.
All right.
Number 5, the Wizard of Oz.
I don't understand why this wizard is here.
Because we pulled the Wizard of Oz helmet.
Number 4, Merlin.
A fine wizard, yes. Number 3.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Space Wizard.
Number 2.
Gandalf the Grey.
And number 1.
Gilbert Arenas.
I have decided to go with Air Force. They're playing San Jose State. They are 5-point favorites. Air Force.
Congratulations.
Closing
Thank
a
you
loop.
for your service. I don't understand why there's a bearded wizard in here. And
Bizzard.
he or she is pointing a blue laser of some sort.
It's a
at people.
magic
It's a wand.
wand.
Dan. It's a wand.
Have you never watched Wizards before?
We do real and serious journalism around here, even though every once in a while it seems silly. We are compromised never. We don't have any conflicts of interest. So many of you who have seen our big week now because we're in our 20th year anniversary and we signed with Peacock and you accused us of being flattering to the Olympic coverage for weeks beforehand just because we signed with Peacock. You're idiots. We're not compromised. We are objective. And the reason, because many of you are going to ask, why there's so many apples all around here is just because we love apples. It's not because Apple has us as the most celebrated podcast in the land all month. It's only because all of us really like apples. So I don't want to get any more accusations about us being compromised and biased and not actually doing journalism around here. And the way I'm going to prove to you that we do journalism around here is we have Laura Jedeed with us from Rolling Stone, and she has done what I would consider the comprehensive piece on Project Veritas and James O'Keefe and this operation. And now this commander's VP of content has been fired, Rael Enteen. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I don't know if I have it right, but he's been fired.
I'm almost certain you don't.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But we do accurate and good journalism around here. And Laura Jedeed, did an amazing piece on all of this absurdity that's happening with Project Veritas. Her newsletter is called Banned in Your State. A couple of months ago, as I said, the definitive piece in Rolling Stone in which she says, among other things, quote, James O'Keefe helped transform U.S. conservatism into a war machine. Then it all imploded. Thank you so much for joining us, Laura. This story is complicated. Your investigation was thoroughly reported. Can you take us through, please, what this entity is that has just gotten this commander's VP of content fired? Because this does not seem like ethical journalism in any way that was done here. And it seems to me that Enteen is a victim here. Do I have this wrong?
I mean, I think victim is the correct term. The ethics of the journalism involved, you're going to get a lot of different opinions. I think this qualifies as real journalism. It's not journalism that I particularly care for. I absolutely think this was a gotcha. Enteen was on a date with somebody that he met on Hinge and was doing something that I think we've all probably done over drinks once or twice, which is talk his place of work. And what's getting reported is essentially O'Keefe's exact spin on it. James O'Keefe being the founder of Project Veritas, an outlet that's been doing stories like this for about 14 years. O'Keefe is on his own now for reasons we don't need to get into. But O'Keefe is reporting that this man insulted players, said that they were all very dumb, insulted fans, said they were a bunch of high school educated alcoholic mouth breathers. Now, he did say that last part. What he said about the players, or the players, is that there's a spectrum of intelligence and some of them are dumb as hell. That's a thing that he said over drinks with a person that he met on Hinge. He also talked about how some of the players are homophobic. And I think something that's interesting here, what was this quote unquote undercover journalist asking about pride stuff? And why the commanders? Like, this person was targeted. Person was targeted for being a James O'Keefe story. And it's because I believe the Commanders are the most politically correct woke team in the NFL on account of changing their name. And I think that probably if Enteen had answered differently on the pride stuff, if he said everyone was all in on pride and everyone loves gay people, they would have done to him what they did to Disney a month or two ago, which is say that they're pushing an LGBT agenda on kids. The thing about O'Keefe is that as soon as he's got you in his sights, you're going down. It doesn't really matter what you say. Whatever it is, it's going to be a bad spin because essentially this kind of journalism, they're just declaring war on whoever they decide needs to be exposed or punished or what have you.
Laura, when you say this kind of journalism, what do you mean? This isn't, you don't go on a second date, and film somebody without their knowledge only to entrap them. Like, I'm not if this is journalism, it's not a journalism I recognize.
Yeah. I mean, the accepted ethics of journalism would be that some people think you don't go undercover at all. Some people would argue that you can go undercover if it's a story that you just can't get any other way. I'm not really even sure this is a story. Never mind a story you couldn't get another way. Again, man talks and the NFL, his place of work, on a date. this is not breaking news. I'm so sorry. But he has been doing this for about 14 years. He got his start. This is ancient history. But if anyone remembers Acorn, which was a large activist group for low and middle income Americans, helped them get things like welfare benefits, helped them register to vote. His very first story was essentially doing an undercover video of them posing as a pimp with a prostitute girlfriend who was trying to start a brothel. And they, the Acorn volunteers, low level, helped them do that. And it ended up destroying Acorn. The Senate defunded them, and it was the end of really quite a good organization. In 2016, I don't know if anyone remembers the Democracy Partners story, where O'Keefe released a hidden camera video that suggested that a Democratic PAC was enticing MAGA people to punch them, basically asserting that all of the violence of that year was a Democratic up. This is the kind of stuff that they do. It's almost always from what I would characterize as a right-wing perspective. It is almost always tapping into whatever the right-wing bugbear of the day is, I guess because the NFL is starting. Perhaps this was a good time to try to reignite the woke wars or what have you. But yeah, this is what they do.
Yeah, and Laura, the other thing they do is they provide either redacted or edited videos. I'm reading in your very, very excellent article in the Rolling Stone about this. About, for instance, you brought up the Acorn employees. They did not reveal that in most cases they called the cops as soon as those people left. Right? They said, "Oh yeah, we'll help you do this," and then turn around and call the cops like, "Hey, someone's trying to human traffic in here." And so these are all things that are convenient left out, which again goes back to what Dan is saying. This isn't journalism. This is an axe to grind, and you're going to go through any means necessary to achieve it.
Laura, you did journalism. This Rolling Stone piece that you did is extraordinary. I imagine, I don't know how long this took you. This must have taken you a year, right? I mean.
It's about right, yeah.
Okay, that's journalism. How can you call what was just done to this person journalism?
I mean, tabloid journalism, not journalism that I enjoy. I think the edits is an interesting question. I mean, a lot of journalists, a lot of video journalists do edit. I think that if you look at this particular video, you'll notice some jump cuts in between the questions asked and the answers, which to me raises some questions. I think that this is, again, certainly not journalism that I approve of. And I think it's unfortunate that the NFL has fallen into the same trap that the Democrats did in the first few years of Project Veritas existing, which essentially was to go, oh my God, PR emergency, we got to fire whoever, temporarily suspend damage control. No, stop it. Stop it. Do not fall into that trap. And it's unfortunate that they did. Again, Rael Entine talked shit about his place of work on a tinge date. And if that is the standard for us not deserving our jobs, I'd guess about 90% of people in America should be unemployed right now.
Before we let you go here, Laura, can you please, because I'm holding in front of me your work, and it's, I'm going to say it's 50 pages that I'm holding in front of me from Rolling Stone, which I didn't know, given the thinness of Rolling Stone these days from the glory days that I remember, that they even did things this comprehensive, because it's a thick piece of work. What would you tell our audience who isn't familiar with what it is that you've written and reported here is the most important parts of this story that are dangerous to a lot more people than just this VP of victim?
So I would argue that James O'Keefe was on the cutting edge of the pivot of the Republican Party from conservative to a war machine. He was calling out fake news before Donald Trump coined the term. He was doing drain the swamp stuff before Donald Trump did it. He was presenting alternative facts before that became a major issue. And essentially the goal is to control the narrative. The goal is to wade in, kind of throw in an anecdotal story, some kind of anecdotal undercover conversation, and then say that it's indicative of some larger conspiracy, some larger thing. You know, one VP of marketing said that some NFL players are homophobic. I guess everyone in the NFL thinks all NFL players are homophobic. And it's just, you don't have to fall for this. People do not have to fall for this. In sports and out of it. I got to admit, this is the first sports program I've ever done. But in politics, this works really well, and it's worked really well for years. And it's unfortunate because I think good journalism is supposed to explore what people believe and just try to see things from their point of view. And the problem with this kind of journalism, which is spread, is that you assume whoever you've targeted is a bad person, and then you go looking for evidence of it. And to me, that's not good storytelling, and it's the kind of storytelling that's tearing this country apart.
Well, you start with what it is that you already believe, and then the reporting you do is just to confirm what you started believing. And in this particular case, it seems really wrong. The reporting seems worse than the crime committed by the person on the other end of this, and now that person has lost their job. Laura, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. We appreciate both the time and the work. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Great to be here.
Thanks, Laura.
Welcome to the Pitch Clock. Here's the pitch, a two-part baseball segment
combining a nostalgic baseball trivia game and an interview with an expert.
This is the Pitch Clock. We're ready for another wonderful game here in September. I'm Jeremy, obviously. We have Chris Cody with me here in the room in the studio.
Hello.
And our expert this week is Mike Schur, and he's actually going to play this game with us. So, Taylor, why don't you go ahead and introduce us to this week's game here on the Pitch Clock?
The game today is 3 strikes and you're out. The people love it, where you guys will alternate guesses. Last person standing wins. The question today is top 20 players that had the most hits in the MLB in the 90s. So between 1990 and 1999,
Lord.
The betting odds, courtesy of our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook, currently have Mike Schur as a minus 10,000.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so do we want to...
Straight up, most hits in the 90s.
Most hits, not in a single season, most hits in the 90s.
90 to 99.
90 to 99.
And I would have been better in the next decade.
I will start with Tony Gwynn.
Mr. Padres, number 4.
All right, number 4. All right, Chris, you are up here. 20 seconds on the clock for the pitch clock.
I am going to go with... I'm struggling right now. This is bad. This is not good. I'm already... No, I have some names, but I just don't think they're right.
Gwynn came off the board and you just...
Yeah.
After Tony Gwynn.
How much time left?
5 seconds.
Okay. I'm going to go with Craig Biggio.
That's a great guess. No?
Number 3.
Thank you. Biggio.
Yeah.
Mike Schur, your guess. Your first guess here in round 1.
I'll go Ken Griffey Jr.
Number 6.
All right.
You know what? Mike just gave me a hint there. Just go with the best player. I'm like overthinking this with like specifically hits.
Yeah.
Just like the best players. Okay.
And now for our guest portion of the pitch clock, we bring in our MLB expert, Mike Schur. Mike, thank you as always for joining us and for sharing your baseball expertise as we're here in September.
Thank you. It is ridiculous to refer to me as a baseball expert. I
you
think
are a
what
baseball
you should refer
expert.
to me as. No, I'm not. I'm just a guy who likes baseball. And I think if you introduce me as a guy who likes baseball, it'll take some of the pressure off of my harebrained analysis.
All right. So, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
We're headed toward the playoff race in Major League Baseball, obviously, as it's September. And I'm wondering whether it's a division race or the wild card. What race are you looking forward to most watching down the stretch?
I think the biggest, this is weird to say, I think the most interesting race is Braves Mets for the wild card in the NL East.
Yes.
This is like, I predicted a long time ago that the Mets were going to make the playoffs, even when it looked like they were down and out. But I just kind of weirdly believe in that team. They're currently they're a half game behind the Braves for the wild card. And the Braves, if the Mets turn into the scrappy upstart team with a $480 million payroll who managed to beat the Braves for a wild card spot this year, that's going to be amazing. I mean, right now, Braves 75% to make the playoffs, Mets are 36%. So it's not looking super likely, but I think to me, that's the most fun race heading down the stretch.
Mike, we've talked a lot here about Shohei Ohtani, about Aaron Judge, their unbelievable seasons that they've each had. I want to know, is there an argument that you could make or would make for another player not named Judge or Ohtani to win an MVP this season, whether that's the American League over Judge or the National League over Ohtani?
Yeah, there's a pretty decent argument for both, actually. The argument in the AL would be Bobby Witt Jr.,
who had the Royals are in all likelihood making the playoffs when no one really thought they would be this good. He plays a premium position. He plays it incredibly well. He's a great base runner. He's like, he's within shouting distance of Judge. I think Judge probably still has him because Judge has also been playing center field, which is obviously another premium position. Right. I don't think it would hold water, but you could make that argument that Bobby Witt Jr. has been the actual most valuable player. The problem with that argument, however, really isn't just that Judge plays center field and plays it pretty well. It's that the Yankees have 2 hitters in their entire lineup. 2. It's Judge and Soto. And if Judge weren't doing every single thing that he's doing, they certainly wouldn't be in first place. And they'd be like a borderline playoff team. Like they'd be a borderline, they'd be where the Red Sox are. Right. They're 2 games over 500. So it's hard to make the argument. You could, if you're a Kansas City sports writer, you'll be making that argument in a couple weeks. In the National League, I think there's actually a pretty good argument that it's Francisco Lindor. Mm-hmm. And he's not going to win. Ohtani, especially if Ohtani gets to 50-50, it's going to be unanimous. But he's not pitching and he's not playing defense. And Lindor's playing really, really good defense at a very important position for a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. And very quietly, that contract, which looked like a massive albatross when he first signed it, that guy's, we're talking about one of the best players in baseball without question. And his right now, Ohtani's WAR is at 7.1, which for a DH is insane because he's only getting WAR from offense. But Lindor is 6.2. Lindor's right behind him. He's going to have 30 homers. He's playing incredible defense. He's leading that team, especially in the second half. And that is a legitimate argument that you could make in the NL.
Through round 1, each of us have gotten somebody. Tony Gwynn, Craig Biggio, and Ken Griffey Jr. My first guess of round 2 will be Cal Ripken Jr.
Number 7.
All right. Chris, to you.
This is fun. I'm going to go with the Big Hurt.
Big Hurt is number 11.
So we're doing what?
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Top 20.
All right,
top
good.
20.
Good.
Mike Schur, you are up.
Paul Molitor.
Ooh.
Paul Molitor, number 10.
Wow. I would not have ever been able to get Paul Molitor.
Glad you said that one because I was.
He had 3,000 hits.
Yeah, but I don't think of him as somebody in an era in which I was watching baseball, but I guess I was born halfway through this decade, so that makes it a bit more difficult. How much time is left on the clock? I'm trying to think of guys who got hits in the 90s. I have a weird one. He's not one of the best players, but he got a lot of hits. Kenny Lofton.
I was actually thinking that one earlier, too.
That's a first strike.
That's a strike. Yeah, all right.
That's surprising.
I would have thought that he would have been in the top, number 19? He might have been in there.
All right, now
Chris, you're up.
I feel a little better now that Jeremy got a strike. I just feel better about getting one wrong. So I'm going to... Roberto Alomar.
Number 5.
Wow. That's a great one. I can't believe we don't have the first 2.
So we don't have 1 and 2?
How is that possible?
Correct.
All right. Hold on. Who has 3,000 hits? Palmeiro.
Rafael Palmeiro.
Number 2.
Number 2 on the board. All right. So this is where it gets even more difficult.
We're missing number 1?
I'm trying to think here.
I got it.
Let me go ahead and guess. I will say... this shouldn't work. Alex Rodriguez?
That's a strike. Strike 2.
I knew it. Oh, no!
Wait, you both just thought of it?
I just thought of somebody, I think.
Let me look at your face.
No, I might be wrong. Chris?
I'm going to go with 90s. Give me... Oh, wait. This is easy. It just hit me. Barry Bonds?
Number 19. Just sneaks on.
Wow. I actually almost went with one of his teammates, and then in my mind, I'm like, wait,
one of his teammates?
Well, no, I'm not going to tell you which.
Well, yeah, now I'm confused. The San Diego Padres, obviously, they have been playing spectacular baseball in the second half of the year, and now they've just added Fernando Tatis Jr. back into the fold. With that addition, what do you think that he really does for them? Does he give them a bolster to say, hey, this is one of the teams that could legitimately win the National League?
Yeah. Oh, no question. I think they're going to make the playoffs now and barring a catastrophe. But that guy has had one of the weirdest careers of all time.
Crazy.
Like he is. It is so bananas. Everything, all of the ups and downs, and the weird motorcycle accidents, and the 80-game suspensions, and the like, just flashes of being the best player in baseball, and then long stretches of like he forgot how to play. It's just very weird. I actually think that there's a little. This is not real statistical sabermetric analysis.
Guy who likes baseball, Mike Schur.
I think there's a little risk in him coming back right now because they've been playing so well, and he is an agent of chaos. And I don't know. I think, look, he's incredibly talented. I think his defense alone should help them. But I just, it's a little risky to put, like, they're cruising, man. They're playing incredibly well. And they've overtaken they've held off the Diamondbacks, who are the best team in the second half. And I think that heading into the playoffs, you've got to like ride with this wave of momentum. And I just worry that he's going to do something insane and he's going to derail the season. Now, in all likelihood, all that will happen is like he'll play good baseball and it'll help. But it's just a little worrisome if you're a Padres fan, a long cursed Padres fan. It's a little worrisome to just drop this bit of nitroglycerin back into the composition of your team.
He is always absolute chaos, either in the best way or sometimes in the worst way for your franchise. Last week, Mike, we asked Tim Kirkshin, and it actually did not make our episode, the greatest strength of any baseball team remaining. So, for example, a team's bullpen, or someone's heart of the order, or a starting rotation's one or two. Ironically, Kirkshin's answer was actually basically the power of friendship with the Philadelphia Phillies and just how much those guys like each other, which for Kirkshin is just the funniest thing for me to hear coming from him. I thought it was awesome. Is there something that sort of stands out for you as, hey, that unit is one that can just, lead a team to a World Series this year?
I think the youth of the Orioles, I think they're like, we don't know any better of the Orioles, which is sometimes for a team that's sucked for a while. You need a bunch of just like young people who like don't remember the long period of suckage of the team because they were all like 2 years old or before they were born. Like that's a big deal for them. I think the number of guys they have on that team who are 22 or 23 and are out of their mind playing well. I think that's a big thing. I think the under the radarness of the Guardians and the Brewers is a big deal. Like the Brewers, especially the Brewers have the second best record in the NL right now. No one has spoken a word about the Milwaukee Brewers in the national sports media all year. Not one word. Like it has all been about Atlanta, Philly, the Mets, the Dodgers, now the Diamondbacks, the Padres. Even the Cubs recently, because the Cubs scored 99 runs over a 10-game stretch and like could storm back into the wild card. But like the Cubs are still 10 games behind the Brewers, even despite that run, because the Brewers have just quietly been like plodding along, playing incredible baseball. And I think that actually really matters. Here's a stat for you. The Brewers have the best run differential in all of baseball. All of baseball. They're plus 139. The Phillies are plus 110. The Dodgers are plus 117. The Yankees are plus 125. Nobody else is over 100. So, yes, the Brewers, by one metric, are without question the best team in baseball. And no one, co-host a baseball podcast with Joe Posnanski. We have not talked about the Brewers once in 6 months. And I think that there's something to that. Like nobody expects anything out of them, and they're going to sail into baseball playoffs, maybe as the 1 seed or probably the 2, if not the 1.
All right. Mike Schur,
Kent.
You're up.
That's not my guess.
That's not your guess, but that's who it would have been.
If it's the guy I think it is, this is insane, but it's a guy who doesn't have 3,000 hits, which is Mark Grace.
Number 1 from the decade.
Wow, that makes
Mark
sense.
Grace is
That makes sense. It makes all the sense.
Oh my
He was like the
Lord.
Jack Morris of the 80s, where like he just happened to have his best years like from 90 to 99.
I cannot believe this. Okay.
That opens up a whole, like, that Mark Grace door
Grace
has been
has
opened. And now
changed
there's
everything.
Now I'm seeing so many more players that I wasn't even thinking of
My
before.
brain is falling apart on this, and I'm really embarrassed, but I have the excuse of not being alive for half of this decade.
So we don't have number 8. We don't have number 9.
Well, I'm about to be out.
Yep. 8, 9,
12
through 18, and then 20.
I'm going to go ahead and say. Oh, boy.
What are the live odds on this? Because I don't have a strike yet.
You don't have a strike? You have one strike.
I do.
I'm
What was
going
my strike?
to say.
What was my strike?
I'll go back.
Omar Vizquel.
That's strike three.
Damn.
My next guess, I think this is a strike, though. Ready? Am I up?
Yeah.
Jeff Kent.
That is a strike.
It's a strike. Okay.
That was the guy I was like, thought of him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, wait, Barry.
No, that would have been
So
a good
it's just Mike Schur and Chris now.
Yep. Mike, you're up.
I'm going to guess Edgar.
Number 18.
Martinez.
Great.
Damn it.
Chris, with one strike,
I stink it.
ball's in your court.
I am going to go with, in the 1990s.
I can't believe that I got 3 strikes that quick. I'm really embarrassed, guys.
Keep filling for me, actually. Keep talking.
This is a weird one, man.
I'm going to take Fred McGriff.
Ooh.
Number 9.
Crime Dog!
Wow.
I almost guessed him.
That was
earlier.
such a panic guess. That was
Man,
such a panic guess.
What an incredible move by Chris. We've mentioned it already. Mike, you love baseball. You watch as much as just about anybody that I know for sure. Who's been your favorite bad team to watch this season? Maybe one that you're looking forward to here in September, playing spoiler, or, there is a certain team, obviously, that's on track for one of the worst seasons ever.
One of my favorite bad teams is the Reds. Partially just because of Ellie De La Cruz, because he's an insane baseball monster who does something wild every game. Like he does something offensively or defensively in every game that seems impossible. And I don't have a large collection of baseball jerseys, but I actually got an Ellie De La Cruz Reds jersey.
Oh, man.
I almost wore it for today's proceedings.
Next time you're on the pitch clock, we got to see it.
Next time I'm on remind me, I'll wear it. But I just love that guy. I love him so much.
What works out great about that Reds pick is that down the stretch, they play the Mets for a series, they play the Braves 4 times, and they play the Cubs for a series as well right at the end of the year. So they can potentially be involved in sort of playing spoiler in some of these races as well. It's worth watching them play down the stretch, which is exciting. Last question for you, Mike. Darren Baker was called up earlier in the week, the son of Dusty Baker, who, for those who remember, he was the one who was saved by JT Snow in the slide at home plate in 2002 in the World Series. Another play at the plate for the Giants in a playoffs was in 2003 when Jeff Conine threw out a player at the plate. It's the epic Pudge collision. Jeff Conine's son, Griffin Conine, called up to the major leagues this week. A couple of names like that have now made me feel very, very old. I'm wondering, who's the first name that you remember in Major League Baseball that made you feel ancient?
The first one I don't remember. Mike Yastrzemski made me feel old because he's a grandkid.
Right.
Like that's
great.
Like I saw Carl Yastrzemski play at Fenway in the early 80s. And then it was like Mike Yastrzemski and you're like, oh wow, Carl's kid is in the majors now. No, Carl's grandkid is in the majors. That was bad. All of the
Blue Jays ones?
The Blue Jays, Kevin Biggio and Bo Bichette and Vladdy Jr. That's bad. Jackson Holliday is really bad because I think of Matt Holliday as like being still in baseball. Like I think
he's
of him
in
still
shape
playing.
enough to do it. He's going to have a second kid get drafted this year, and Ethan Holliday.
Yeah, that's bad. Every time it happens, it's terrible. I mean, Cody Bellinger was bad because I remember Clay Bellinger because I hated the Yankees. And when Cody came up, I was like, there's no way that's Clay Bellinger's kid. And then remember Cody Bellinger was interviewed about Jerry Seinfeld came to the stadium and they were interviewing him about Jerry Seinfeld. And he was like, yeah, I don't know who that is. And I was like, oh, man.
That's going to continue to hurt over time. There's going to be more and more of those that are just people who don't know staples of pop culture for us. Mike, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of The Pitch Clock. Let's head back into the studio to see how our game wrapped up involving another one of our shipping container members. All right, only one strike to Chris. Mike, can you keep it going?
I will guess Bagwell.
That's a strike.
Oh, wow, it's a strike.
I am going to go with
one strike to each of you.
What is he on the board? Is he at top 50? He must be like...
I just have the top 20.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What do you expect?
This guy was more 2000, so I'm going to get this wrong. Chipper Jones.
Chipper Jones is strike 2.
Okay, strike 2 to Chris. Mike, now to you. There's a guy that comes to mind, but he came up too late in the Yankees?
Barry Larkin.
Wow! Whoa! Okay,
So he has 2 strikes?
2 strikes to each of you. Chris, if you get a strike and Mike
Andres
gets a strike,
Galarraga. Andres Galarraga.
That's a strike.
Oh, strike 3. Mike, can you win this? Can you get one of the players remaining and ice this game? Mike Schur, it is to you.
If he gets this wrong, it's just going to be a draw.
All right, we don't have enough time left in the studio.
all
It'll
the
be a draw.
excitement, but
No, but he needs a win. I know Mike wants a victory here. Mike?
Here's my problem. I think there's a couple Yankees who must be on this list, and I hated those players so much I don't want to guess them and have it be a positive thing.
I get it.
So I'm trying to figure out a non-Yankee,
5
which
seconds.
limits my options.
Yeah, you have 5 seconds left. You have 5 seconds left to figure it out.
Albert Bell.
Number 17. That's the winner.
Oh, Mike Schur's victory on the pitch.
No, wait. Am I right? Let me ask you this.
Is Derek Jeter on this list?
No. The players
No,
that
I don't.
were
Jeter
on
didn't
the
come up till too late. But I'll bet you that some number of Bernie Williams, Chuck Knobloch, and Paul O'Neill are on this list.
Dante Bichette was number 8. Chuck Knobloch was number 12. Steve Finley was number 13. Marquise Grissom was 14. Jay Bell was 15. Paul O'Neill was 16.
Wow.
Lance Johnson was 20.
Johnson
almost went Dante.
What a game.
This has been, this week, a real exciting turning of the corner for our show. It's not just that we're celebrating 20 years. It's that a lot of big things right now are happening at the same time. It's a combination of joining Peacock, another partner, and now you've got Apple telling everybody all month that we are absolutely something that must be listened to, and the merch store is working fast enough so that when Stugotz takes a picture with porta potties in Kansas City to send us into a football season that's going to be just us sprinting for 4 months through football season, it immediately goes up on LeBatardAF.com, and you're going to want to have this T-shirt because rarely, he's never looked this good. He looks like a fashion icon.
The lighting.
I can't believe how glorious. This could be the cover of an album for God Bless Football. Stugotz in Kansas City, home of champions, surrounded by the smell of shit and porta potties, truly disgusting porta potties. Football porta potties are the worst porta potties. I don't know where, like, this isn't construction site porta potties. Where is anything worse than people have been drinking since 7 a.m. and running to a toilet that is made of plastic? This is a glorious photograph that was taken this morning.
And you can see the look that he has on his face. He's looking on the horizon to what he thinks is Kansas, but is still very much Missouri.
And he thinks the Bengals are playing tonight.
That too.
God Bless Football is where you go to find all of your football content here with the Duke, number 4 international football insider, and Stugotz. LeBatardAF.com is where you go. I would wear that shirt. Would you guys not wear that shirt of Stugotz? Looks glorious. He looks like a king on his throne. When is the last time Stugotz looked that good, competent, and regal? Any setting. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Man.
I'm out of answers.
No, I got nothing
This
for
is
you.
it.
Our first day at ESPN.
Yeah, you said he's never looked better. Initially, I think you should walk that back. He looked better for several years. He's aged.
I disagree, though.
Quite a bit.
I'll tell you when he looked better. When he shaved his head.
Yeah. As Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
He looked better the years 2004 to 2019.
Definitely not the sports take diva.
Oh, no, he looked worse that day. Yeah, that was the worst.
ESPN was right about that. They told us to not do that anymore, and several years later, credit to them.
Yeah.
That was the right call.
They did tell us not to do that?
Yeah. It was actually like a sensitivity thing. Like, we're having a laugh at this dude that is cross-dressing, who's the punchline in this. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I pushed back initially on it, but now, as an older man, now one that has a family, I've matured.
Was
they
that
were right?
Was that when his belly was giving takes when we painted his belly, or was that a
No,
different
that was a different thing. That was Stugotz.
We can bring that back.
Takes from the future where he was just at
Nostradamus. That was an exciting one.
Nostradamus.
Why don't we do any of those things anymore?
You're asking great questions, Stan.
Let's do Thursday Thunder. Juju Gotti he's suffering. Another 2 for 3. I can't. Yes, I'm telling you.
Got the Canes one though. Come on, baby.
I keep telling people bet these individually instead of as 3 legs because he'd be winning you money. He's been good at it. He's just not good at going 3-0, which is tough to do. Chris Cody, what do we got tonight? Football is here. It's arrived. It is Sunday night. Tonight is Sunday night. I know it's Thursday night, but it's Sunday night. Give me what the Juju picks of the night are.
Thursday, Sunday, Thunder.
What?
Is brought to you. Thursday, Sunday, Thunder is brought to you by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear all about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. I actually did that on purpose.
Oh.
DraftKings, the crown is yours. Tony, what did Juju cook up?
Dano, the NFL is back, and Juju Gotti's cooked up yet another winning parlay.
We said that, and we said they're losing parlays, but go ahead.
They're always winners until they lose. Bringing the Thunder for Thursday Night Football, TNF, and Friday Night Football, FNF, which is something that's very exciting.
But don't forget, it's also Sunday night.
Also
and
SNF.
also Sunday Night Football.
Saturday
That's
night,
right.
too, in December. They do Saturday nights, too. All right, Isaiah Pacheco, over 60 rushing yards is the first leg. Isaiah Pacheco, over 60 yards on the ground. Second leg, Nelson Aguilar, who's a Raven, by the way, for those of you keeping notes at home, over 16 and a half yards.
You can have
Just
a nice
one grab.
You can have a nice long career in the NFL if you're really fast.
Last leg of the parlay, Josh Jacobs. This is Friday night. Josh Jacobs over 63 and a half yards. He is a Packer now, for those of you keeping tabs at home. Josh Jacobs, a Packer.
Are you sure, Tony? Because your facts have been wrong today. I asked because Juju sent me a different Pacheco one, and if he goes 2 for 3 again because you gave bad information, the one he sent me on Pacheco was rushing attempts over under, not rushing yards, rushing attempts.
I'm looking at the official DraftKings Sportsbook picture with Juju on it, saying Isaiah Pacheco plus 60 yards.
Because I've got
rushing.
over
You see it.
14 and a half rushing
Dan also
attempts.
said it was Sunday night. So
yeah, he didn't get Thursday night,
all right.
Friday
Well,
night.
at least we didn't make this more confusing.
All right, very good. Enjoy your football.
Hello, Peacock.